Chapter 246. Demonic Skill Wine versus Demonic Skill Scroll. Such a unique battle finally came to an end. In the palm of Tian Xie's hand, there was already a golden scroll, and the previous attack was slowly dissipating in the air. Seeing the golden scroll in his hand, Jidong's expression changed slightly. He had carefully read the ancient book that Flying Serpent had given him, and it was the last few pages of the scroll's production records. He clearly saw the production method of this golden scroll on the last page. It could be said that its value was terrifying, and Jidong could not accept it at all. It actually needed the powder of a Class 10 magical beast core crystal as the main raw material. And there was only one purpose for producing this kind of paper, to be the carrier of a super killing skill. That's right, a super killing skill. Jidong had never thought that Tian Xie would have such a powerful scroll. A super killing skill was the most unpredictable skill. Jidong himself also had the ability to use a super killing skill, but he was very clear that his world of sun, moon, yin and yang was only the most basic super killing skill. Super killing skills were divided into 4 levels: primary, intermediate, advanced, and peak. It was also a super killing skill, but if a primary super killing skill met an intermediate super killing skill, then the result was very simple. The primary super killing skill would be completely destroyed without any suspense, and there was no need to consider the problem of mutual promotion or restraint of attributes. Quick, stop him! Flaming Bar's somewhat anxious voice sounded in the depths of Jidong's soul. If the scroll in Tian Xie's hand could be used as an intermediate killing skill, not only Jidong, but within a radius of 10,000 meters, all living beings would be plunged into misery and suffering. Jidong did not know if the 6 Supremes below could withstand it, but he could be sure that the demon masters of both sides and the Diamond Legion not far away would be greatly affected, and he himself would bear the brunt, becoming the first sacrifice. This bastard, he actually did not hesitate to let the living be plunged into misery and suffering. The killing intent in Jidong's heart had already bloomed crazily and unstoppably. Under such circumstances, how could he watch Shou unleash this ultimate skill scroll? Without any hesitation, the sacred evolution fire dragon, which was connected to Jidong's mind, leaped out. Its body swayed in the air, and like a blinding black and white light, it charged towards Tian Xie. The super ultimate skill scroll was not so easy to use. It required a large amount of mana as the foundation to ignite, and it naturally took time. When Evil Will took out the scroll, his face was full of viciousness. The scroll in his hand could be said to be the trump card of the Magic Skills Guild. It was a powerful metal-type AoE attack scroll. Just as Jidong had predicted, this was an intermediate ultimate skill. Even Jidong would not be able to block it. Evil Will had already thought it through. As the user of the scroll, he would be protected by the mana released by the scroll. Using this intermediate ultimate skill, not only would Jidong die, even the 6 Supremes below would be delayed for a period of time. As long as he snatched the core of life, he would immediately run away and restrain his aura. Then, the Supremes might not be able to catch up to him. This golden scroll was very small and could not be seen from below as it was held in Evil Will's hand. Only the Flaming Bar could see the existence of this scroll through the spiritual connection with Jidong. Therefore, the 6 Supremes below did not know what was about to happen. Only when the sacred evolution fire dragon pounced out and an incomparably terrifying aura suddenly bloomed from Evil Will did they feel that something was wrong. "Oh no, Evil Will, stop!" Shui Mingwei shouted almost without hesitation. He had never intended to let Evil Will release the ultimate skill. Although he was ambitious, he was definitely not a madman. That ring was his own precious storage magic tool. Previously, when he gave it to Evil Will, he only had the thought of winning in his heart. He had forgotten to take out the most expensive and most terrifying scroll in the ring. Now that he suddenly felt this aura, he naturally knew what it was. What was an intermediate ultimate skill? Simply put, a 9-crown sovereign powerhouse below rank 99 could only use a medium ultimate killing skill, even if they used all their strength. If they wanted to use a high ultimate killing skill, or even a peak ultimate killing skill, they would need several 9 crowns powerhouses to work together and use a combination skill. Even then, they would suffer a strong backlash. The reason why Yin Zhaoyang and Ji Zhangxin were so powerful among the 9 crown demon masters was very simple. Each of them could use 3 different forms of mid-grade ultimate killing skills, while supremes like Yin Zhaorong, Shengwan Yinkong, Shui Mingyue, and Lung Fengyun could only use 1 mid-grade ultimate killing skill. The difference between 1 and 3 shouldn't be underestimated. 3 mid-grade ultimate killing skills with different forms. When an area of effect super killing skill met a single target super killing skill, the result could be imagined. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would provoke supremes like Ji Zhangxin and Yin Zhaoyang. Only Ji Zhangxin knew that the intermediate ultimate skill that Yin Zhaoyang could use was not 3, but 4. Moreover, Yin Zhaoyang's demonic power had reached level 96. He was the strongest among all the supremes. Among the 6 supremes in front of him, he was also the only one who could use 2 intermediate ultimate skills consecutively. Therefore, Ji Zhangxin had some scruples about him. In midair, Tian Xie unexpectedly released a terrifying aura that belonged to an intermediate ultimate skill. How could the 6 supremes not be shocked? Almost at the same time, they all made different reactions. Ji Zhangxin leaped up and landed behind Shengwan Yinkong. He put his hands around his wife's waist and shouted in a deep voice, "Yin-yang rotation, absolute defense." Almost at the same time, the extreme demonic power that a 9-crown expert could use was released from the Earth element couple. Extreme Yang Earth and Extreme Yin Earth. The terrifying demonic power rose up and formed a huge light shield that spread rapidly. The power of the defense unleashed by the combination of the Yin and Yang attributes of 2 great masters could be imagined. The dazzling golden light formed a huge barrier, not only blocking the magicians of the Magician Guild, but also protecting the Diamond Legion. However, Ji Zhangxin and Shengwan Yinkong's expressions were very ugly. It could be said that no one on the battlefield could break through the defense that the husband and wife had set up. However, if there was enough time, even a 9 crowns great master would need a lot of time to prepare if he wanted to release a defense that could block a super killing skill. The reason why the magic scroll was so terrifying was because any skill that was activated through the magic skill scroll could be released instantly. Therefore, the absolute defense that they had set up might not be able to block the super killing skill released by the magic scroll. On the side of the Magician Guild, especially the Diamond Legion not far away, they would still suffer a lot of losses. The magicians of the Magician Guild were not fools. Each and every one of them quickly released their own skills to defend themselves. Ji Yunsheng shouted loudly and gave the order to the Diamond Legion to join forces to defend. However, compared to the speed of the magic skill scroll, everything was a beat slower. Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong had almost instantly soared up when they felt that something was wrong. Their target was Tian Xie, who was in the air. Once the intermediate ultimate skill was released, what they had to do was to protect Ji Dong first. At this moment, they could no longer care about winning or losing this battle. On the other side, Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun had also released their joint defense. These 2 supremes were already disheartened. Not to mention the preciousness of the ultimate skill scroll. Once this skill caused the Magic Guild and the Diamond Legion to suffer losses, the other side would definitely not let them go. The anger of the 4 supremes was enough to completely destroy them and the Magic Skill Guild. All of this happened after the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon rushed towards Tian Xie with Ji Dong. When Tian Xie saw Ji Dong rushing towards him, his expression became extremely ferocious. How could he not leave a backup plan for himself? His right hand desperately poured magic power into the scroll, and his left hand swung out. The last 3 prepared scrolls flew towards Ji Dong at the same time. 3 powerful skills instantly bloomed in the air. These 3 skills were Water Element, Metal Element, and Earth Element. The scroll of Water Element was the 99 Ice Spear, the Metal Element was the 1,000 arrows piercing the heart, and the Earth Element was the meteor chasing the moon. The 3 ultimate skills were released at the same time. Although they could not complement each other, there was no doubt about their attacking power. Tianxia's goal was not to defeat Ji Dong with these three scrolls. As long as Ji Dong blocked the attack of these three scrolls, then his ultimate skill would be released. At that time, no one would be able to reverse the explosion of this skill. Ji Dong, retreat quickly, Yin Zhaoyang shouted almost loudly. This was the shout he made when he jumped up from the ground. Yin Zhaoyang's strength was very strong, although he could not stop the ultimate skill in time. After the ultimate skill was released, there would be a short burst of magic power for a second. During this time, he was absolutely sure that he could block between Ji Dong and Tianxia and protect his disciple. However, Ji Dong did not retreat. From a moment the sacred evolution fire dragon started to accelerate, he had already made up his mind. Ji Dong was a person who never wanted to put his fate in the hands of others. He had a strong desire to control himself. In the face of the three brazen magic scrolls, he did not block them. The two dragon heads of the sacred evolution fire dragon swung up at the same time, and two brilliant rays of light shot out from their mouths at the same time. They were injected into Ji Dong's body, urging Ji Dong to collide with the three ultimate skills like a golden and black lightning. Using physical strength to take on three sure kill skills head-on, Tianxia revealed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. He could clearly feel that the scroll in his right hand was about to be activated. However, the smile at the corner of his mouth completely froze in the next moment. He could not believe what he was seeing. Among the three ultimate skills, the fastest one was the Earth Element's meteor chasing the moon. It was a bombardment of dozens of huge rocks with surging Earth Element energy. Seeing that Ji Dong was about to collide with them, suddenly, Ji Dong's body flashed in the air. He was like a swimming fish, and he drilled through the cracks of the rocks. His body and the skills passed by each other, and he directly swept past the meteor chasing the moon. Ji Dong was very clear that he could not use his magic skills to resist the ultimate skills in front of him. Otherwise, the counterforce would definitely cause him to pause, and even a moment of pause would be fatal at this time. Under the huge pressure, Ji Dong's potential was almost completely stimulated. His body had just passed the group of meteor chasing the moonstones, and the other two ultimate skills had already followed. 10,000 heart-piercing arrows and 99 cold ice spears. The density of the attacks was extremely high. At this time, Ji Dong had completely retracted the wings on his back. His whole body was like a swimming fish, and he directly drilled into the center of the two ultimate skills. His body was constantly swaying slightly, adjusting the angle of his body. The soul fire was fiercely rising in his body, and his spiritual power was raised to an unprecedented level. The two ultimate skills formed an all-encompassing attack that was like a map being scanned by the soul fire and branded in his mind. No matter how dense the attacks were, they still had to be divided into a sequence. Ji Dong was swaying violently. His hands stretched forward, and the fiery magic fluctuated at his fingertips. Facing the attacks, he could always dodge the sharpest spots and slide past from the side. One by one, the ice spears and metal arrows almost all slid past his body, and even made ear-piercing friction sounds when they came into contact with the demon Lord Yin Yang armor. Those that came into contact with Ji Dong's body could only cut through his clothes and were directly bounced off by his tough skin. However, no matter how fast Ji Dong's movements were, he was still facing two ultimate skills. When he went deep into the middle with the density of the attacks, he was finally unable to dodge. The soaring dual flame spell formation lit up behind him, and ear-piercing dragon roars and snake cries erupted from his body almost at the same time. The 6 dragons and 6 snakes brazenly emerged, unleashing their full power without holding anything back. They did not bombard forward, but shot out in all directions at the same time. Each dragon and snake carried an unparalleled amount of mana. As they rose, there was no doubt that the mana in the air was fiercely scattered. This was a countermeasure that Ji Dong had already thought of. Even if he couldn't stop his opponent from using her ultimate skill, he could still rely on the 6 dragons and 6 snakes to release the sun and moon yin-yang world to resist as much as possible. Under the effect of the 6 dragons and 6 snakes, the magic power contained in the 2 ultimate skills melted. Without the support of magic power, they could not cause any damage, and Ji-dong directly crashed into the ice spears and metal arrows that had lost their momentum and rushed out. The ultimate skill scroll in Tian Xie's hand was just a bit away from successfully releasing it. At this moment, he had already poured all his magic power into the scroll. He was even prepared to grab the core of life from Ji-dong, who had been swallowed by the ultimate skill. Chapter 247. Tian Xie was overjoyed. He was about to succeed. It sounded like a long time, but the entire process happened in the blink of an eye. He was taking it all on one throw. After throwing out the 3 scrolls, he could no longer attack or defend himself. Tian Xie was overjoyed. Success! Just as Tian Xie was about to inject the last bit of mana into the scrolls and complete the ultimate move, a firm palm suddenly grabbed his wrist that was holding the scrolls. With a crisp sound, Tian Xie's wrist was forcibly shattered amidst the glaring golden flames. The meridians in his wrist and the last bit of mana that he had sent out were completely severed by this sudden hand. Ji-dong had finally arrived at the critical moment. Anger and hatred had already caused the tyrant's hair to stand on end. He slid his right hand down, and the scrolls landed in Ji-dong's hands. When he felt the terrifying mana contained within the scrolls, Ji-dong couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. He immediately stored the scrolls in his vermilion bird bracelet. At the same time, he charged forward and punched Tian Xie's chest. The blazing golden flames also exploded. At the same time, Ji-dong, who had lost his momentum, stomped heavily on the Emerald Lizard Dragon King's head. He flapped his wings with all his might and used the force of the punch to forcefully bring Tian Xie off the dragon's back. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon had arrived right after Ji-dong. The Emerald Lizard Dragon King, which had already lost its will to fight and was severely injured, was about to face the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's rage. Gold and black intertwined in the air. There were 6 flashes and 5 explosions. The terrifying dual-colored light pillars became more and more intense. Each pillar was larger than the last. Close combat was Ji-dong's forte. Every palm and punch of his didn't contain any mana. The intense dual-colored light pillars were completely emitted from Tian Xie's body. All 6 curses landed on Tian Xie's body. Not to mention that he didn't have any armor. Even if he was wearing armor, he wouldn't be able to defend against the 6 curses that were unleashed in the form of the god-slaying strike. The first wood mana source was directly smashed. When the last pillar of light exploded in the air, Tian Xie didn't even have time to scream before he turned into ashes in midair. Facing this ruthless enemy who didn't hesitate to release a scroll ultimate move and almost killed him, Ji-dong wouldn't show any mercy. He extended his palm, and an octagonal crystal crown and the heaven jade from the bet were fished out by Ji-dong at the same time. When he turned to look at the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's battle, he saw that the Emerald Lizard Dragon King had been torn to pieces by the 9 dragon claws. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's terrifying grade, 8 dual fire, didn't give its opponent any chance at all. The Emerald Lizard Dragon King didn't even leave a complete piece of flesh behind. What made Ji-dong dumbfounded was that when the crystal core from the Emerald Lizard Dragon King's head fell into Mao Tai's hands, Mao Tai raised his white dragon claws and put the crystal core into his mouth. With a crunch, he bit it in half and threw the other half into Wu Yangye's mouth. Wasn't this like taking off his pants to fart? Their heads were different, but their bodies were the same. Wasn't it the same no matter who ate it? On the other hand, Wu Yangye was very satisfied and rubbed its head on Mao Tai's body. A priceless grade, 9 crystal core, was divided by them. Of course, Ji-dong wouldn't feel distressed about this. The 6 Supremes, who were in full offensive and defensive stance, were a little dazed. When Ji-dong blasted Tian Xie into the air, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong had already arrived. However, at that time, they didn't need to interfere anymore. seeing Ji Dong use his unique six-layered curse to kill the eight-crown expert in seconds. Even they felt a sense of satisfaction. No one had expected the final result to be like this. The middle-grade ultimate killing technique scroll couldn't be released in the end. Ji Dong was slightly panting. The sacred evolution fire dragon had already come under him and carried his body, soaring proudly in the sky. Strangely, it had clearly used its 9 claws to tear apart the emerald lizard dragon king and eaten its crystal core, but its body wasn't stained with blood at all. It was still black and white. The 6 dragons and 6 snakes that had helped Ji Dong disperse the attack of the scroll also flew back under the guidance of the soul fire and merged back into Ji Dong's yin-yang crown. The danger had been resolved. On the side of the Magician Guild, although the magicians who had 6 crowns and above were not young, they couldn't help but cheer. Fury waved his fist fiercely and said, "Good job." It must be known that Ji Dong had not only won this crucial battle, but he had also prevented the release of the intermediate ultimate killing skill, which would have resulted in the deaths of many people. At least the people of the Diamond Corps had to thank him. Even under the joint defense of Ji Zhangxin and Shangwan Yinkong, because of the haste, they were still bound to suffer casualties. Seeing that his Grandmaster and Grandmaster's wife were flying into the sky to rescue him, Ji Dong hurriedly let the sacred evolution fire dragon go up to meet them. He said respectfully, "Disciple was fortunate enough to not disappoint you." He was actually not too satisfied with himself. After all, he had released the stored dragon and snake demonic power. Of course, this was also because of the variables brought about by the ultimate killing skill scroll. After this battle, with the help of the raging and flaming dual swords, Ji Dong's strength had reached another level. Even Yin Zhaoyang's face, which had always been as calm as an ancient well, couldn't help but reveal a faint smile at this moment. Hyoheim nodded and said, "You did well. You didn't waste these 4 years. Let's go, fall me down. Don't take back your mount." Before Yin Zhaoyang finished speaking, a huge red figure had already rushed into the sky and directly arrived in front of the sacred evolution fire dragon. It was Yin Zhaoyang's magical beast companion, the Fire Dragon King. The Fire Dragon King's big, bright eyes were filled with emotion at this moment, and a strong fire attribute magic on its body fluctuated uncontrollably. It stared at the sacred evolution fire dragon beneath Ji Dong and breathed heavily through its nostrils. It said in a trembling voice, "Child, child." Mao Tai and Wu Yangye were stunned at the same time. They looked at the fire dragon in front of them, which was much larger than them, with some doubt and confusion. They were obviously a little vigilant, but when they looked at the Fire Dragon King's eyes, their vigilance gradually disappeared, and they were slightly dazed. "Child?" Ji Dong looked at Yin Zhaoyang in surprise. A trace of disappointment appeared on Yin Zhaoyang's face, and he said, "Ji Dong, where did you get this mount from?" "My old friend said that this is her child." Hearing Yin Zhaoyang's words, Ji Dong finally understood. He thought to himself, it can't be such a coincidence, right? However, if Mao Tai and Wu Yangye really did find their mother, he would only be happy for them. "My companions are indeed evolved from a fire dragon. Senior Fire Dragon King, are they really your children?" Although Ji Dong had trained with Yin Zhaoyang for a year, he had rarely seen the Fire Dragon King. He spent most of his time with the Flying Serpent, so he was not too familiar with this peak 10th level magical beast. The Fire Dragon King's voice was still trembling. "Child, child." Mao Tai and Wu Yangye let out low growls, and the doubt in their eyes was gradually replaced by warmth. No matter how much they had mutated, their origin came from the bloodline of the Fire Dragon King after all. The aura of the bloodline could not be mistaken. The strong motherly nature emitted from the Fire Dragon King gradually caused strong emotional fluctuations in their hearts. The Fire Dragon King said, as if it was talking in a dream, 1,000 years ago, I gave birth to a child. In a short interval when I was out hunting, I was ambushed by the traitor of the Ice Dragon clan. That despicable and shameless Ice Dragon Feng Shuang took my child away. 1,000 years. I've been looking for my child for 1,000 years. I can't be wrong. I definitely can't be wrong." Ji Dong nodded and said, "You're not wrong. It's your child." Back then, we took them back from the hands of the ice dragon Feng Shuang. But because they were affected by the chill of Feng Shuang for many years, their origin was damaged, so we used various methods to help them get rid of the chill and evolve. Mao Tai, Wuliang, this is your mother. Ji Dong and the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon soul were connected, so the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon would not doubt his words at all. The doubt in its eyes was completely replaced by passion. Ji Dong spread the wings on its back and flew up by itself. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon only hesitated for a moment before their bodies were tightly hugged by the Fire Dragon King, who had spread its huge wings and pounced on them. The smile on Yin Xiaoyang's face became even wider, and he said, "Old friend, I'm really happy for you. You finally found your child." Yin Xiaoyang laughed and said, "Let the mother and daughter be intimate first." But to be honest, little Dong Dong's magical beast companion does not look like your old friend at all. Yin Xiaoyang looked at Hyoheim with a burning gaze and said, "You'll have to ask him about that." Ji Dong scratched his head. He could not possibly say that the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon had become like this because of his memories from his past life. He muttered, "I don't know what's going on either." Without the permission of the Flaming Bar, he would not say anything about the core world. Yin Xiaoyang said, "Let's go down first. It's not too late to talk about it after we settle the matter between the two guilds." The three of them landed on the ground. At this moment, the Magician Guild was completely immersed in the cheers, while the Magic Skill Guild was completely silent. Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun sat on their mounts in a daze. They did not know what to say at all. They did not feel any pity for Tian Xie's death. They even felt a little glad. Once that killing technique was used, then the Magician Guild would definitely retaliate with all their strength. When he gave the scroll to Tian Xie, the competition was no longer fair. But even so, he still lost. What else could he say? "Good grandson, come, let great-grandmother take a look." Shangguan Yinkong's face revealed a benevolent smile. Hyoheim waved her hand. Ji Dong spread his wings and flew above the head of the Earth Emperor Dragon. He arrived in front of Shangguan Yinkong and said, "Greetings, great-grandmother." Shangguan Yinkong smiled and said, "Good child, from you, I can see the future of the equivalent king. Hey, are you still not letting go?" The last sentence was said to Ji Zhongxin, who was still hugging her. Ji Zhongxin's face turned red. After all, in front of so many juniors, he could only unwillingly and resentfully let go. Shangguan Yinkong said, "Ji Dong, go to the side and rest first. After great-grandmother has settled the matter in front of us, I will talk to you." Ji Dong nodded and glided down, landing beside Flaming Bar and Ajin. Flaming Bar stretched out her right hand and pulled Ji Dong's hand. Her pleasant voice came from the cloak. "Ji Dong, Ajin, and I will return to the core world first. These are all your friends and relatives. You need time to deal with them. You can tell them about us. Don't worry, no matter if you choose to stay by their side in the future or do something else, I will not blame you." Flaming Bar, Ji Dong wanted to say something, but Flaming Bar raised her hand and pressed it on his lips. "You don't need to say anything. Do you think I don't understand your intentions? You don't need to feel troubled either. The Soaring Serpent has already seen through my identity, so there's no harm in telling them. I hope that you will be happy. Come find me in the core world after you have settled everything." Without waiting for Ji Dong to speak again, the gentle red petal-shaped halo had already quietly bloomed, sweeping up Flaming Bar and Jin's bodies. In an instant, they disappeared into thin air. With Flaming Bar and Jin gone, Ji Dong immediately felt a strong sense of loss. He knew that Flaming Bar had only done this because she was afraid that he would be put in a difficult position. She did not want him to abandon his family and friends just to travel the continent with her. Other than feeling lost, his heart was also filled with gratitude. All along, no matter when, Flaming Bar had always been thinking of him, silently sacrificing for him. This also made him even more certain that Flaming Bar was gradually accepting his feelings. On the other side, Shangguan Yinkong had already ridden his Earth Emperor Dragon slowly forward. He said in a low voice, "Shui Mingyue, Lung Fengyun, 2 wins out of 3. The 2 battles have already ended. What do you say?" Shui Mingwei and Lung Fengyun looked at each other. Now that the dust had settled, his expression had become much calmer. He said, "I've lost. Man proposes, God disposes. There's nothing more to say. From today onwards, the Magic Skills Guild will no longer exist. Everything that belongs to the Magic Skills Guild will be merged into the Magic Skills Guild. Although I'm not a good person, I will still keep my promise. When I return, I will immediately hand over the Magic Skills Guild to you. However, Fengyun is a guest that I invited this time. She is not a member of the Magic Skills Guild. After I merge the Magic Skills Guild with the Magic Skills Guild, I will not stay." His voice was very calm, but everyone present could feel that his heart was bleeding. The Magic Skills Guild's hundreds of years of foundation had been destroyed in the hands of his generation. It had been destroyed because of greed. The current Shui Mingyue's feelings could be imagined. Lung Fengyun looked at Shui Mingyue with a gentle gaze. He said, "Mingyue, since things have already been decided, take it easy. With Shangwan Inkong's personality, he will definitely treat the members of the Magic Skills Guild well." Yin Zhaoyang, Yin Zhaorong, and Ji Zhangxin had already arrived beside Shangwan Inkong. Each of their eyes revealed a different light. Chapter 248. Yin Xiaoyang said, "The Magic Skills Guild and the Magician Guild merging is not a bad thing. It is the golden age of our magic world. Shui Mingyu, let me ask you, what was the purpose of the Magic Skills Guild?" Shui Mingyu's eyes turned cold. "Yin Xiaoyang, don't try to act innocent after getting the advantage. Although I lost, I don't need you to lecture me." Yin Xiaoyang acted as if he didn't hear Shui Mingyu's words. No matter if it is the Magic Skills Guild or the Magician Guild, there is only one purpose, and that is to obtain benefits for all magicians, to let the Yin and Yang magician have a home of their own, to have a platform to communicate with each other, to promote the continuous development of the profession of Yin and Yang magician. Shui Mingyu, you lost today. Among the many reasons, the most important is that you have deviated from the path that the guild should take. Greed, lust, jealousy, these negative emotions have blinded your heart. If I'm not wrong, your magic is currently level 91, right? After breaking through the 9 crowns, you can no longer improve. Don't you realize that? Enough, Yin Xiaoyang. You don't need to attack us anymore. Lung Fengyun was also angry. He looked at Yin Xiaoyang with an unfriendly expression. Yin Xiaoyang said faintly, "If you think that I'm trying to discourage you, I can't do anything about it. However, I can tell you that if you maintain your current state of mind, you will never become a supreme expert in the real sense. I feel ashamed for the title of the highest attribute that you've obtained." Intense water elements exploded from Shui Mingyu and Lung Fengyun at the same time. The Magic Skills Guild lost. Their mood was already extremely bad. Hearing Yin Xiaoyang's provocation, how could they endure it? Ji Zhangxin frowned. "Brother Xiaoyang, killing is just a matter of nodding your head. Forget it." Yin Xiaoyang waved his hand. "All of you back off. Brother Changxin, you will understand later." Ever since Yin Zhaoyang had appeared, everything he had done had been successful. Even Ji Changxin and Shangwan Inkong, who were also Supreme Being experts, couldn't help but believe in his words. As for Yin Zhaorong, there was no need to even mention her. To her, Yin Zhaorong was like a brother, like a father. He was older than her by 20 years. No matter how strong she was or how old she was, she would always be like a little girl in front of her big brother. Naturally, she wouldn't go against Yin Zhaorong's wishes. The 3 Supremes slowly backed off, leaving Yin Xiaoyang standing there facing the 2 Water Supremes. Furthermore, he didn't have the help from the Fire Dragon King. Fire Dragon King couldn't hold anything else in his heart when he saw his long-lost child. The 2 Supremes of Water, Goddess Empress Shui Mingwei and Ascending Light Majesty Lung Fengyun, were riding on their respective giant ice dragons and giant ice dragons. Facing Ascending Light Majesty Yin Zhaoyang, who didn't have a magical beast companion, no matter how one looked at it, they should have the absolute advantage. However, even under such circumstances, they didn't feel any pressure at all. Yin Xiaoyang simply stood there, but he gave them a feeling that he was the only one in the world. A bright golden sun crown quietly appeared above Yin Xiaoyang's head. The golden flame brand of the 9 crowns seemed to come to life and continuously rose. On the crown, the 3 half-corona stars displayed his terrifying magic power of level 97. Without the pressure of the ultimate Yang fire, what he brought to Shui Mingyue, Lung Fengyun, and the 2 rank 10 dragons was purely spiritual pressure. At this moment, Ji Dong, who was also attracted by the scene in front of him, suddenly heard Yin Shouyang's voice. Take a good look at the 9-crowned demon master's fighting style. It will be enlightening for you. Ji Dong was astonished. Could it be that his grandmaster wanted to challenge 2 supreme beings by himself? Moreover, they were 2 water supremes that countered his attribute. With the yin-yang dual waters combined, the opponent's strength would increase by several times. What Yin Xiaoyang said next shocked everyone. He looked at Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun calmly. His voice was still so indifferent, but every word he said was earth-shattering. Both of you, come at me together. Even Ji Zhangxin, whose strength was closest to Yin Xiaoyang's, couldn't help but reveal astonishment in his eyes. He had never thought that Yin Xiaoyang would actually challenge 2 supreme water masters by himself. He didn't understand why Yin Xiaoyang would do this. Magic Skills Guild had already lost. Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun had also admitted defeat. Was this battle really necessary? Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun looked at each other. Both of them saw the humiliation in each other's eyes. As 9-crowned demon masters, when had they ever suffered such humiliation? Almost at the same time, they roared angrily, and each of them flew up from the back of their mounts and pounced towards Yin Xiaoyang, who was standing there. There were 9 crowned demon masters after all. 2 against 1, they didn't add their mounts. This was a matter of dignity. In reality, even if they won 2 against 1, they wouldn't be excited. As soon as the 2 water supremes made their move, Ji Dong, who was far away, saw the problem. He realized that no matter if it was Yin Xiaoyang, Shui Mingyue, or Lung Fengyun, they didn't emit any strong magic wave of their own attribute. It felt like they were the most basic first-crown demon masters. They couldn't release their magic power at all. However, the bright yin-yang crown on their heads clearly showed the terrifying strength of their 9 crown. Why is this? Ji Dong didn't understand. Lung Fengyun and Shui Mingyue had already arrived in front of Yin Xiaoyang like 2 flashes of lightning. There was no need for any more communication. Only blood could wash away their humiliation. The defeat of the Magic Skills Guild and the provocation of Yin Xiaoyang in a 1 versus 2 battle had caused these 2 water supreme beings to raise their strength to the limit. Shui Mingyue's body spun violently in the air like a huge spinning top. His speed was so fast that no one could see his figure clearly. Although he didn't release any magic wave, Ji Dong could clearly feel that Shui Mingyue was like a huge whirlpool that could swallow everything. When Lung Fengyun was in the air, her entire body was arched backwards. Her left hand was behind her back, and her right hand was raised high above her head. She was like a huge battle axe that chopped down from the sky. Her raised right hand was the blade of the battle axe. One was simple, one was complicated. The attacks of the 2 water supremes could be said to be perfectly coordinated. Both of their attacks arrived at the same time, attacking both sides of Yin Xiaoyang's body. Facing the attacks of the 2, Yin Xiaoyang only took half a step to the left with his left foot. He made a circle with his right hand and slapped towards Lung Fengyun. His left hand shook and raised his sleeve to meet the whirlpool like Shui Mingyue. Even though he was fighting 1 against 2, he was still as calm as before. However, Yin Xiaoyang's attacks didn't happen at the same time. It seemed that his hands were moving at the same time, but in reality, there was a sequence when he came into contact with Lung Fengyun and Shui Mingyue. Even though the difference was negligible, it still made Ji Zhangxin's eyes narrow. Yin Xiaoyang's right hand directly slapped Lung Fengyun's palm blade. At the instant before the 2 of them came into contact, Ji Dong clearly saw that Lung Fengyun's palm blade had turned into a sparkling and translucent purple. That was clearly the phenomenon of the ultimate water reaching its peak. However, Yin Xiaoyang's right hand looked so ordinary and didn't emit any elemental color. The hands of the two supreme being powerhouses quietly touched each other. There didn't seem to be any magical fluctuations, but the moment they touched each other, everyone felt an extremely strange sensation, because they realized that the air in front of them had become distorted. Everything around them could no longer be seen clearly, and it was in this distorted air that there was a slight explosion. This wasn't just the air that was vibrating. The earth, the sky, and even the sun that was hanging high up in the sky seemed to be trembling from this vibration. The second vibration occurred almost at the same time as the first one. That was the effect of Yin Xiaoyang's sleeve and Shui Mingyue's whirlpool colliding. These two strange collisions didn't produce any residual waves of magical collision. However, the vibration in the air seemed to make everyone's soul leave their bodies. The distorted air was dazzling. There were only a few people who could truly see the effects of both parties' attacks and defenses. Jidong was one of them. With the help of the soul fire, his vision penetrated through the distorted air and saw the true situation of the battle. He was shocked to see that when Lung Fingyun's palm blade collided with Yin Xiaoyang's right hand, she was actually sent flying more than 10 meters away. Her body flipped in the air as if she couldn't control the momentum at all. On the other side, the whirlpool formed by Shui Mingyue was slapped by Yin Xiaoyang's left hand. The scene was even more shocking. Shui Mingyue wasn't sent flying, but his spinning body was forcefully stopped by Yin Xiaoyang's sleeve. His entire body seemed to have fallen into a temporary state of stiffness. Jidong was very clear that the three innate martial artists' fighting style that didn't seem to release any magical power was actually more dangerous. They had obviously stored all of their magical power inside and would only release it at the moment of collision. However, he didn't expect that Yin Xiaoyang would be able to gain the upper hand in the situation of 1 against 2. What kind of power was this? His opponents were the same as him, 2 9-crown martial artists. Jidong was shocked. Lung Fingyun and Shui Mingyue were even more shocked. Among the 5 elements, water subdued fire, and the 2 of them were 2 against 1. In their opinion, Yin Xiaoyang wouldn't even be able to defend against their joint attack. However, when her attack collided with Yin Xiaoyang, they realized how powerful His Majesty Victory Light was. The first to be hit was Lung Fingyun. Her sharp palm blade condensed all of her magical power into a straight line at the edge of her palm. The extreme Ge Shui magical power was like the coldest cold blade. Even if it was a mountain, she could cut it into 2. However, when her attack collided with Yin Xiaoyang, it felt like she had slashed a firm fortress made of diamond. The extremely condensed extreme Gue Shui magical power actually couldn't move an inch forward. In the next moment, she was shocked to find that her extreme Gue Shui magical power was greatly consumed in an instant. A terrifying burst of power flashed and disappeared in an instant. In that instant, the irresistible power sent her flying. The intense extreme yang fire was like a vast wave, forcefully dispersing the extreme Gue Shui magical power in her palm. At this moment, Lung Fingyun's entire right arm was burning hot and sore. She couldn't use any strength at all. Shui Mingyue was even more uncomfortable than Lung Fingyun. His strength was slightly stronger than Lung Fingyun. His rapidly spinning body, with every revolution, the magical power in his body would condense a bit more. Both of his hands were folded in front of his chest. Once released, it would be as powerful as a thunderbolt. Although Supreme Masters could use ultimate skills, in reality, when they met an opponent of the same level, it was impossible for them to use ultimate skills. Even if it was the strength of a 9-crown, if they wanted to use an ultimate skill, they would need to accumulate power for more than a second. 1 second seemed very short, but for a 9-crown Demon Master, it was enough to kill an opponent dozens of times. Therefore, the battle between Supreme Masters was not as dazzling as the battle between Jidong and Tian Xie. Their battle became more simple and direct, but also the most dangerous. If they were not careful, as long as they were hit by an opponent of the same level, it was very likely that they would be destroyed. Yin Xiaoyang's swing looked very simple. It was just a swing in the opposite direction of Shui Mingyue's rotation, forcefully stopping his rotation. But in reality, to be able to do this, not to mention how strong Yin Xiaoyang's magical power was, just his grasp of time and position, control of his own magical power, as well as the judgment of the strength of the magical power distribution in Shui Mingyue's rotation, had reached a very precise level. Shui Mingyue only felt that his extremely condensed ninth water, which could explode at any time to launch a strong attack, was forcefully interrupted by this swing. The condensing of magical power was interrupted. Even if he was a supreme ninth water master, it was so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit blood. And what he could not understand was that after his condensed magical power was whipped, he could not even explode successfully. It was like his tendons were cut, and he lost the connection and control of his muscles. Lung Fengyan was forced back, and Shui Mingyue was fixed there. At this moment, it was equivalent to Shui Mingyue facing Yin Xiaoyang alone. And because the condensing of magical power was interrupted, his body also showed a moment of delay. At this moment, he only felt that his body was dislocated and everything was no longer under his control. The rhythm of the battle was destroyed by Yin Xiaoyang's swing, and in his heart, there was actually a sense of helplessness. Chapter 249. A deathly chill rose from the bottom of his heart and rushed into his brain. Shui Mingyue's pupils dilated because he clearly saw that Yin Xiaoyang, who was facing both his and Lung Fengyan's attacks, did not show any hesitation after blocking their attacks. It looked like he only attacked with his right hand and waved his left sleeve. At this moment, his body made a half-turn, and the right hand that hit Lung Fengyan had already arrived above Shui Mingyue's head. Shui Mingyue was, after all, a nine-crown expert. At this moment of life and death, he used all his strength, not caring about the damage to his meridians. He used all his strength to push his hands up. His completely transparent palms finally blocked Yin Xiaoyang's palm at the last moment. But this palm caused Shui Mingyue's entire person to change. First was his transparent palms, transparent demonic power. This was the specialty of the ninth water. The demonic power of the ninth water was black, but the ninth water was like real water. It was colorless and transparent. But at this moment, two palms against one, after blocking, Shui Mingyue's hands actually turned from transparent to gold. It represented the yang fire of extreme yang. And this gold almost instantly spread to his arms. His sleeves instantly turned into ash, until his shoulders barely managed to block the attack. Not only that, Shui Mingyue's entire body was like a nail. He was forcefully smashed into the ground by Yin Xiaoyang's palm. Below his chest, everything was sunk into the ground, and his face became strangely red. This is the power of a nine-crown expert. Jidong looked at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded. Ever since he recognized Yin Xiaoyang as his grandmaster, he had never seen how his grandmaster fought. Now that he saw it for himself, he finally understood why everyone was so afraid of this grandmaster. Even his ancestor Xian was very respectful to him. This was power, truly terrifying power. They were both nine-crown demon masters, but in just a moment, two opponents whose attributes were able to suppress Yin Xiaoyang were actually sent flying by him and smashed into the ground. What kind of power was this? Mingyue, Lung Fengyan shouted. Just as she stabilized her body, she stopped in the air. She kicked backwards, and a wall of air appeared, bouncing her body back towards Yin Xiaoyang. While she was in the air, the powerful nine-crown Yin crown above Lung Fengyan's head had already turned into a purple light and merged into her palm. She separated her fingers into a claw shape and clawed towards Yin Xiaoyang's head, changing direction in the air and accelerating in the opposite direction. This was probably something only an innate expert could do. The air was like a part of their body. Completely merging the yin-yang crown into an attack was undoubtedly the most exhausting method for a demon master. It was also a method that would only be used in desperate situations. Lung Fengyan had to do this because she could clearly feel that if Yin Xiaoyang attacked again, Shui Mingyue would be finished. She had to save Shui Mingyue. Not to mention the friendship between them.
If Shui Mingyue was killed by Yin Zhaoyang, then she would not be able to gain any benefits. After facing Yin Zhaoyang, she finally understood how powerful his majesty was. Now, the only chance for her and Shui Mingyue was to join hands and display the effect of the yin-yang dual water combination skill. Facing Lung Fingyun's all-out attack, Yin Zhaoyang didn't seem to care at all. He was still as calm as before. The sun crown on his head didn't even have any magical fluctuation. He raised his right hand and made a simple downward chopping motion. There wasn't any magical fluctuation on his palm either. Only the fluctuation of the distorted air could be vaguely seen. Lung Fingyun's full-strength claw collided with Yin Zhaoyang's right palm. Ji Dong could even clearly see that the thick purple crystal on Lung Fingyun's fingertips actually melted like snow. In the next moment, her entire body was like a rock. Along with Yin Zhaoyang's right palm, she was forcefully smashed onto the ground. That's right, smashed onto the ground. Her body completely sunk into the ground. From the beginning to the end, there were only 4 collisions. Moreover, Yin Zhaoyang was completely on the defensive. He switched between attacking and defending with God Empress Majesty Shui Mingyue and Ascending Light Majesty Lung Fengyan. His feet didn't even leave the ground. After 4 collisions, the air distorted 4 times. When most of the people could see everything clearly, only Yin Zhaoyang was left standing among the 3 Supreme Masters. Yin Zhaoyang did not follow up with his attack to destroy the 2 Supreme Being experts. After smashing Lung Fengyun into the ground with his palm, he stopped and put his hands behind his back. His face was still as calm as before, as if nothing had happened. Silence, absolute silence. Yin Zhaoyang was very calm, but the situation in front of him had already told everyone the result. Shui Mingyue's chest was completely sunk into the ground. Her arms were still raised high, as if she was throwing herself. Her face was flushed red, and she was using all her strength to dissolve the extreme yang fire magic power that had invaded her body. Under the situation where the elemental restraints existed, he actually couldn't break free. Lung Fengyun was even more miserable. She was directly smashed onto the ground, and even made a front claw movement with her right hand. These weren't 2 ordinary people, but 2 Supreme Masters with 9 crowns, Supreme Masters with their own elemental titles. The battle had only lasted for a few blinks of an eye, and they had already been reduced to such a state. On the other hand, Yin Zhaoyang, who was the instigator of all this, was still standing there unscathed, as if nothing had happened. Even Ji Zhangxin and Shangwan Yinkong, who were also Supreme Being experts, were dumbfounded by what they saw, let alone the ordinary Devil Masters. What would have happened if they were in Yin Zhaoyang's position? Although Ji Zhangxin knew that Yin Zhaoyang was strong, his magic power had also reached level 96. He had always thought that there was only a slight difference between him and Yin Zhaoyang. However, he was also one of the few people who could clearly see the battle just now. At this moment, he understood that the difference between him and Yin Zhaoyang was no longer a slight, but an insurmountable gap. If it was him, perhaps he would only be able to withstand a few more blows. Yin Zhaoyang's magic power contained a mysterious power, which was already in a completely different realm. In the past 50 years, Yin Zhaoyang was the least supreme master that appeared on the continent, but the current him was already completely ahead of the others. Ji Zhangxin faintly felt that perhaps this supreme master in front of him could already be considered as the strongest in the 5 elements continent. No wonder he would choose to fight 1 against 2. No wonder he was so calm from the beginning to the end. This was strength, the result of true strength. Yin Zhaoyang's right foot lightly stepped on the ground. With 2 whooshes, Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun, who had dived into the ground, were shaken up. When the 2 of them landed, they stood side by side 10 meters away from Yin Zhaoyang. Sorry, it could only be described as sorry for these 2 supreme masters of the water element. Shui Mingyue had lost her sleeves. Her slender arms were bare. Lung Fengyun was a female, so Yin Zhaoyang was merciful and did not destroy her clothes. However, the dirty appearance was not much better than Shui Mingyue's. Looking at the 2 of them, Yin Zhaoyang said indifferently,
You too must be regretting in your heart now, regretting that you underestimated me, regretting that you didn't join hands to attack me at the beginning, displaying the effect of the yin and yang dual attribute combination skill, and being defeated by me with my superior magic power, right? At this moment, Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyan finally forced out the extreme yang fire that had invaded their bodies. They both knew that they had walked on the line between life and death. At that moment, Yin Jiayang only needed to flick his finger to end their lives, not even leaving a trace behind. The shock that the yin and the morning sun brought them was absolutely subversive. They had never imagined that after reaching the level of 9 champions, they would still lose so miserably. Each of them had only made contact with the yin and the morning sun twice, and in those 2 simple encounters, they had already suffered a crushing defeat. Yin Jiayang's words were exactly what Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyan were thinking. They had a new understanding of Yin Jiayang's strength. But even so, they did not believe that if they joined hands, they would not be able to defeat Yin Jiayang. After all, the yin and yang dual attribute combination skill of the Supreme Master level would definitely increase their strength by several times. No matter how strong Yin Jiayang was, he was only one person with only one attribute. Yin Jiayang said indifferently, "I can understand your thoughts. How about this? I'll give you 10 minutes to adjust, then we'll fight again." Adjust, then we'll fight again. These simple words were like 8 sharp knives, stabbing into the hearts of Lung Fengyan and Shui Mingyue. Their dignity seemed to be completely shattered by these words. Their faces became extremely ugly because of anger. Yin Jiayang was still indifferent and said, "If you can't even control your own emotions, then there's no need to fight again. You still won't be able to survive 3 moves from me." Almost using all the strength in her body, Shui Mingyu took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the humiliation and anger in her heart. Her face gradually calmed down. Although Yin Jiayang's every word was like a bone-scraping steel knife that stimulated them, but what he said was right. If they were in a situation where their emotions were unstable, they would not have a chance. Whether it was the magicians of the Magic Guild or the Magic Skill Guild, all of them had their eyes on the battle in front of them at this moment. As a magician, the pursuit of strength could be said to be the goal of every one of them. For them, the battle between the 9 crowned champions was the key to opening the door to their own cultivation. Such a battle would undoubtedly make each of them take fewer detours in their future cultivation. Therefore, even if they couldn't see the battle clearly before, they still concentrated on it, hoping to feel a little more. The excitement of the victory of the Magic Guild had already disappeared, and the shame of the defeat of the Magic Skill Guild seemed to have disappeared. The battle between Yin Jiayang, Shui Mingyue, and Lung Fengyan made them feel that in the face of absolute strength, power was nothing. With his own strength, he could defeat 2 Supreme Being experts. If Yin Jiayang wanted to, he could even easily wipe out the Magic Skill Guild, or even the Magic Guild. Was there anything in this world that he could not obtain? Although Yin Jiayang did not say a word to these magicians who were watching the battle, he was using his own actions to tell these magicians that as a yin and yang magician, what they should really do was not to pursue power, but how to improve their strength so that they could have the same strength as him one day. Everyone's eyes lit up. The ones who understood it the most were Ji Zhangxin, Shangguan Yinkong, Ji Dong, and Fury, who were either Supreme Being experts or those who possessed extreme demonic power. The simple battle just now had allowed them to see and understand many things. 10 minutes wasn't a long time. It could be said to pass in the blink of an eye. To the Supreme Being experts who possessed powerful demonic power recovery ability, 10 minutes was enough for Lung Fengyan and Shui Mingyue to recover to their peak state. Not only in terms of strength, but also their spirit had become extremely focused. After witnessing Yin Jiayang's strength, they would not be careless this time. Lung Fengyan's right hand and Shui Mingyue's left hand clasped together. The moment their hands clasped together, their aura instantly became completely different. A majestic aura blossomed from their bodies at the same time, as if they were the ocean that had an unlimited source of water, or the glacier that was the source of all rivers.
A layer of white mist slowly spread out from the place where their hands clasped together. Their previous sorry state seemed to have completely changed at this moment. At the same time, Lung Fengyun and Shui Mingyue's other hand had already clasped together. They raised their hands at the same time and pointed at Yin Zhaoyang. In an instant, a white light that was only half a foot in diameter shot out from their clasped hands and went straight for Yin Zhaoyang's chest. Ji Dong's eyes widened. As a yin-yang dual-attribute demon master, he couldn't imagine the effect of the combination skill of two supreme being experts. He didn't understand why the yin-yang dual waters would turn into a single white color when they were combined under the extreme demonic power of the Nine Crowns level, instead of purple and transparent, just like how his extreme yin-yang fire would turn into two colors of black and gold. But he could vaguely guess that this was the true extreme of the yin-yang dual attribute combination skill. Facing Yin Zhaoyang, they had to give it their all. Only by completely defeating Yin Zhaoyang could they wash away the humiliation they had suffered previously. At this moment, no matter if it was Shui Mingyue or Lung Fengyun, they both revealed a resolute expression. Their demonic power source had even completely merged into one. Behind them, the Heaven Empress, which symbolized the water element, and the Black Tortoise, which symbolized the water element, floated clearly behind them. The Heaven Empress stood on the back of the Black Tortoise, like a demon master riding on his own magical beast. Chapter 250. The colors of the two totems, the Empress of Heaven and the Black Tortoise, which were floating behind Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun, were the same as the demonic energy released by the two supreme experts. This was the complete yin-yang dual water fusion technique, a perfect fusion in the truest sense. That pure white light seemed to be shooting through the heavens and earth. It wasn't fast, it was even a little slow as it shot towards Yin Zhaoyang's chest. Yin Zhaoyang's expression was slightly solemn. He raised his left hand immediately with his palm facing outwards. This time, the color of his palm finally changed. One could clearly see the radiance of the fire attribute vermilion bird condensing behind his back. The golden sun crown on his head also turned into a golden light and merged into his palm. Facing the joint attack of the two supreme water attribute experts, this victorious light lord finally used his full strength. The golden light condensed in his palm. When the white light shot towards him, Yin Zhaoyang's left hand pushed outwards and blocked the attack of the white light. However, at this moment, a layer of thick white mist had already risen around his body. The temperature of the entire verdant grassland plummeted at a terrifying speed. The grass on the ground turned into ice spikes and spread in all directions. It was obvious that this was caused by Yin Zhaoyang's inability to completely resist the demonic energy of the yin-yang dual water fusion technique. That simple white light should not be underestimated. Although it was the simplest demonic energy attack, if it was to be measured by skills, it had already surpassed the existence of a mid-level ultimate killing technique and entered the realm of a high-level ultimate killing technique. However, Yin Zhaoyang had blocked it after all. His feet were still standing there steadily, and his expression didn't change at all. His left hand was like a sturdy shield, blocking in front of his chest. In midair, the Fire Dragon King had already stopped its intimacy with its child. It looked towards the battlefield with some worry in its eyes, watching attentively. At this moment, no one could interfere in this battle. If anyone tried to interfere with this battle, then under the influence of the Qi, it would immediately cause the attacks of the three refined ones in the middle of the battlefield to focus on them. This was something that no one could withstand. Even if Ji Zhongxin and his wife joined forces, they would not be able to withstand it. Therefore, they could only watch and wait for the final result of this battle. Whether it was the people of the Wizard Guild or the Magic Skill Guild, they all felt that Yin Zhaoyang seemed to have gone too far. He was indeed powerful. In a one-on-one situation, there was probably no supreme expert who could compete with him. However, at this time, he was facing the combination of two supreme experts of Yin and Yang. He was even arrogant enough to let them perfectly fuse the two water magic to form the strongest attack. If Yin Zhaoyang lost, or even died in this battle,
then it was completely caused by his arrogance. Looking at the overflowing cold air, everyone could see that although Yin Zheoyang's demonic energy was strong, it was not enough to contend against the yin-yang dual water combination technique. If there was no miracle, failure was only a matter of time. What was strength? True strength was composed of many elements and was not limited to demonic energy. Because of this, Xue Mingyue and Lung Fengyun didn't dare to relax, even though they clearly had the upper hand. They knew that if Yin Zhaoyang had a chance to take a breather, the result of this battle might change. Especially when they saw Yin Zhaoyang's expression that seemed to never change. They couldn't help but increase the output of demonic energy. A person's potential was unlimited. Under great pressure, it was easier to stimulate one's potential. Without a doubt, the pressure that Yin Zhaoyang brought to them was great, even terrifying. At this moment, whether it was Xue Mingyue or Lung Fengyun, they both felt that the demonic energy between them was unprecedentedly harmonious. The degree of fusion was infinitely close to perfection. But even so, Yin Zhaoyang was still standing there steadily. Although the environment outside was affected by the extreme dual water demonic energy, he still stood there quietly. His body was not affected at all. Blocking the attack with his left hand, Yin Zhaoyang slowly raised his right hand. His movement was very slow, and he didn't gather any demonic energy in his right hand. He simply raised his right arm straight above his head, clenched his right hand into a fist, and stretched out his index finger, pointing to the sky. Suddenly, for some reason, Ji Dong's heart thumped violently. He seemed to have vaguely sensed something, and his eyes couldn't help but widen even more. The second confrontation between the three supreme experts didn't cause any distortion in the air. It was completely presented in front of everyone. Everyone's attention was also focused on Yin Zhaoyang's right hand. His two opponents were no exception. What was he going to do? This was what 99% of the people wanted to know. Could it be that he still had the strength to launch an attack in this situation? Yin Zhaoyang's indifferent gaze finally changed at this moment. His calm gaze suddenly became sharp. Even Xue Mingyue and Lung Fengyun, who had suppressed him, couldn't help but narrow their eyes and didn't dare to look at him. At this moment, Yin Zhaoyang's raised right hand suddenly turned white. It was a white different from the extreme dual water demonic energy in front of him. It was an indescribable luster. It seemed to be the white of the heaven jade that Ji Dong had obtained before, but it was even purer and more lustrous. Just as everyone's pupils contracted, an inch-tall white flame quietly ignited on the tip of Yin Zhaoyang's right index finger. There wasn't any magical ripple, and the white flame wasn't very obvious under the sunlight. However, the moment it appeared, Ji Zhongxin, Shangguan Yinkong, Ji Dong, Fury, Lung Fengyun, and Xue Mingyue all widened their eyes at the same time. In the next moment, Yin Zhaoyang made the simplest action. Pointing at the heavens and the earth, his right index finger slashed down with the small cluster of white flame toward the white yin-yang dual water demonic energy in front of him. Time seemed to have frozen at this moment. Everything in the world seemed to have changed along with the slash of his finger. The instant the yin-yang dual water demonic energy that was constantly attacking came into contact with the white flame, it seemed to have turned into an icicle. It froze in midair and collapsed in the next moment. That's right, it collapsed. Just like a real icicle collapsing when it came into contact with magma, the white light disintegrated into bits of faint white light. With Yin Zhaoyang's left palm as the source, it collapsed towards Lung Fengyun and Xue Mingyue. In just a few breaths' time, it had already arrived in front of them. As for the small cluster of white flame that was dancing on Yin Zhaoyang's fingertip, it turned into a white silk-like halo and disappeared in a flash. Boom! This boom wasn't because of Yin Zhaoyang's attack, but because the yin-yang dual water combination of Lung Fengyun and Xue Mingyue had turned into opposites repelling each other. The arrangement of the magical energy between the two seemed to have undergone an earth-shattering change. The magical energy that they released and fused together suddenly turned into an attack towards each other. In the midst of the violent boom, their bodies had already bounced back like cannonballs, and they only managed to stabilize themselves after flying for tens of meters.
The white flame on Yin Zhaoyang's fingertip had been extinguished, but he still stood there and didn't leave his original spot. His gaze had also regained its calmness. The silent scene once again appeared on the celestial grassland. Everyone's expression was extremely interesting, but no one could make a single sound. The yin-yang dual water combination skill that the God Empress Holiness Shui Mingwei and the ascending light Holiness Lung Fengyun had unleashed with all their might was broken just like that. Just when everyone thought that Yin Zhaoyang couldn't hold on anymore, it was broken. Shui Mingwei and Lung Fengyun almost spurted out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their aura could no longer merge as one like before. Their injuries were caused by each other. From the beginning to the end, in this second battle, Yin Zhaoyang didn't attack them at all. If it was said that in the first battle, when they were defeated by Yin Zhaoyang 4 times in the 4 clashes, they were still unwilling to accept it and felt lucky. But at this moment, the determination in the hearts of these 2 supreme water majesties had collapsed along with their combination skill. The ascending light Holiness Yin Zhaoyang, who was standing not far away from them, was like an insurmountable mountain. 2 against 1, they still weren't his match at all. Not only them, even everyone present couldn't accept it. Even their mounts, the rank 10 giant ice dragon and giant ice dragon, were already standing there in a daze, not daring to move at all, because they all felt that Yin Zhaoyang could destroy them with just a wave of his hand. When the shock had reached a certain level, no one even cheered. Yin Zhaoyang simply stood there, but it was as if he had become the core of the world. At this moment, Shui Mingwei seemed to have aged a few decades. Her face revealed a trace of sadness. Chaotic flame, is it? Yin Zhaoyang didn't reply and only looked at her silently. Shui Mingwei nodded and said, I understand. Ascending light holiness, you are right. I indeed don't have the qualifications to be called as a supreme martial artist with you. You can do whatever you want of me, but Fengyun is only here to help me. Please let her go and let her leave. Lung Fengyun's figure flashed and appeared beside Shui Mingwei. No, Mingwei, since I am here, I am prepared to bear everything together with you. As she said that, she turned to Yin Zhaoyang and said with a ferocious expression, Yin Zhaoyang, since you have such strength that is enough to decide everything, why do you still want to win 2 out of 3 battles? Why do you still want to fool us? Killing people is just a matter of nodding your head. Aren't you afraid of retribution? Yin Zhaoyang said indifferently. Do you still not understand? You did not lose to me, you lost to yourselves. The reason why I'm doing this today is not to fool you, and there is no need for me to fool you. I only hope that you can realize it yourselves. Like I said before, your hearts are blinded by greed, lust, jealousy, these negative emotions. You have already forgotten the true pursuit of a magician. Even if you obtain victory in the battle against the Magician Guild today, in the near future, you will still walk towards destruction. If I want to kill you, I don't even need to say anything to you. 9 crowns is the level that all magicians dream of, but do you really want this to be your final destination? You have wasted the blessings of the heavens. What is the pursuit of a 9-crown magician? Now, I will tell you the answer. It is eternal life to become a saint or a god. Although my age is older than all of you, I only need 100 years at most, and all of you will turn into dust. As for me, I will still remain in this world. The pursuit of external things will only lead you astray. As a 9-crown magician, what is our responsibility? The stronger you are, the greater the responsibility you have to shoulder, and not to use your own strength to seek benefits. Previously, when Yin Zhaoyang said similar words, Shui Mingwei and Lung Fengyun did not listen at all. In their eyes, it was Yin Zhaoyang ridiculing them because of the victory of the Magician Guild. But at this moment, listening to Yin Zhaoyang's narration, there was already a subtle change in their feelings. Yin Zhaoyang had already used his strength to prove the difference between a 9-crown magician and a 9-crown magician, especially the chaotic fire that broke their yin-yang twin waters. It was like a heavy blow, smashing their hearts fiercely. 1 step to heaven, 1 step to hell. Sometimes the difference between truth and falsehood was just a thin layer of gauze. Lung Fengyun and Shui Mingyue's expressions gradually calmed down. Their eyes flashed with the light of pondering. All kinds of past kept appearing in their minds. As a nine-crowned supreme magician, most of their past was glorious. In the beginning, they worked hard to cultivate, diligently, and constantly improve their strength. They were called geniuses. Not long ago, they were willing to do anything to break through their limits. But ever since they entered the realm of Nine Crown, their mentality changed. They were no longer calm. They became impetuous. Just like what Yin Zhaoyang said, they were using their own strength to seek benefits for themselves. 9 crowns was not the limit. The pursuit of 9 crowns was immortality. These two sentences were like two bolts of lightning that struck their souls. They also shocked everyone present. It wasn't just Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun. Ji Zhongxin and Shangwan Yinkong's eyes were also filled with understanding. Although their situation was different from the two water sovereigns, they had spent most of their time in their own emotional world. Yin Zhaoyang's words had not only enlightened their opponents, they had also enlightened them. Everyone's state of mind had received an unprecedented cleansing. Yin Zhaoyang turned around and slowly walked in the direction of Hyoheim and Fury. Mengshi leaped up from the side with Yin Zhaorong and said, "Yin Zhaoyang, when did you comprehend the chaotic fire? Why didn't I know and feel it?" Chapter 251. Yin Zhaoyang smiled faintly. "Senior soaring serpent, chaos is in the heart. I do not have the luck of Jidong, but I have perseverance. In truth, with your experience and cultivation, you should have understood the mystery of chaos long ago, but your heart is too jumpy, unable to calm down and comprehend it. Furthermore, there's the innate spiritual sensitivity difference between humans and magical beasts." Soaring Serpent looked at Yin Zhaoyang with a gloomy expression, snorted and said, "It won't be long before I too can possess it." Yin Zhaoyang ignored Soaring Serpent, turned to Fury and Jidong and said, "They will probably need some time to think. The demon masters of both sides will also be pondering over the course of the previous battle. Tell me, what did you two comprehend from watching the battle just now?" Fury and Jidong looked at each other. Fury didn't stand on ceremony either. He chuckled and said, "Martial ancestor, I'll speak first. Junior brother's comprehension is higher than mine. If he speaks first, I probably won't have anything to say." Yin Zhaoyang slightly nodded with a smile on his face. Only when he looked at his two grand disciples would he smile. It could be seen that he was very satisfied with his two grand disciples. Fury said, "In a battle between supremes, it seems to be a taboo to release demon power. In my opinion, this should be to save as much demon power as possible, and at the same time to prevent the opponent from taking advantage of it. After breaking through to the 9 crown level, the demon power has reached a terrifying level, and the 9 crown demon master has a unique characteristic, the body of an elemental user. As an elemental user, not only is it difficult to be injured by the elemental user's body, but it is also extremely difficult to injure a 9 crown demon master. Defending against demon power attacks is not difficult, but releasing demon power will undoubtedly consume more demon power. Even if the opponent uses a super ultimate skill, the defending side will still have the advantage. Moreover, the speed of a Supremes is infinitely close to teleportation. Ordinary demon power cannot easily injure the opponent, and accumulating demon power will give the opponent an opportunity with speed. Therefore, when Supremes attack and defend against each other, they will naturally choose to accumulate, condense, and compress demon power, focusing mainly on close combat. This way, they can fully display the characteristics of their elemental user. This kind of battle may seem simple, but it is actually more dangerous. The outcome of the battle will often be decided in a short period of time. One mistake, and both body and soul will be destroyed. This way, a 9 crown demon master's fighting style, if faced with a lower level demon master, is absolutely destructive. If I were to fight against you, you can completely rely on the body of an elemental user and your control over the elements to get close to me in an instant, break through my attack and defense, and only need one move to destroy me directly." Hearing Fury's words, Yin Zhaoyang nodded his head slowly and said, "Continue." In the first battle, It seemed like you were fighting one against two, but with your ingenious control and rhythm of attack, it was equivalent to each of them fighting one-on-one. Of course, your absolute advantage in magic power was also the key to your victory. As for the second battle, it was the advantage of the Flame of Chaos. As for why the Flame of Chaos could produce such an effect, I don't know, but I can be sure that you did it to remind them that chaos is the pursuit of a nine-crown magician, so that they shouldn't be short-sighted and only see power and status. Chaos is also our goal in the future. That's all I can see. Yin Zhaoyang smiled faintly and said, "It's not easy for you to be able to see through this fire and combine it with your own analysis. In the eyes of an ordinary magician, a nine-crown magician is powerful and mysterious. In fact, the ability of a nine-crown magician can be summed up in two simple words: speed and power. With absolute speed and power, even if there is a slight difference between you and your opponent, these 2 points are enough to win. Every magician's magic power has its own unique characteristics: how to compress, condense, output, and how to use it smoothly without any gaps or delays depends on the individual's own understanding. When you can achieve the lightning in the palm, you are considered to have touched the edge of the nine-crown realm." "Yes, Grandmaster." Hearing Yin Zhaoyang's words, Fury replied thoughtfully. Yin Zhaoyang's gaze shifted to Hyoheim, and he said, "What about you? What did you comprehend and understand?" Ji Dong smiled bitterly and said, "Senior has said almost everything that I can say. Grandmaster, I have never thought that a nine-crown magician's battle would be like this. I have always thought that when nine-crown magicians face each other, both sides should release a large amount of magic power from a long distance and bombard each other with magic power, attributes, equipment, and other aspects of the battle. Even if some close combat attacks are added, it is not the mainstream. Today, after watching your battle with the two Water Supremes, I finally understand that between Supreme Masters, the complexity will be reduced to simplicity. Just like what Senior said, a Supreme Master's endurance towards the enemy's attack is too strong. If it is a long-range magic attack, it will definitely be the defensive side that has the upper hand. But I feel that close combat is not absolute. Under certain specific circumstances, long-range attacks are not useless. For example, in special circumstances, long-range attacks can also play a very good role in restraining, but I can't say for sure. Only when one has truly reached that realm, perhaps it can be released." Yin Zhaoyang nodded and said, "Nothing is absolute, especially the strength of a magician. Tell me about your views on the compression of magic power and the fire of chaos. You have already possessed the origin of chaos 5 years ago. In this aspect, you should have a more thorough understanding than Fury." Ji Dong said, "Compressing magic power and hiding it to attack is actually a kind of individual combination skill. Simply put, it is to stack your own magic power layer by layer in the body, and then condense the stacked magic power at a single point of attack. At that time, the instantaneous explosive attack power will exceed the attack power that your own magic power can achieve. The more layers of stacking, the smaller the compression of the magic power output, and the greater the power of the attack. However, this kind of attack is still very limited for us magicians who are not elementalists, because we don't have the defense of nine-crown magicians. When compressing and stacking magic power, it is almost impossible to achieve it without affecting other movements like the Supreme Masters. However, it can be used as a killing move. Just now, when I attacked Tian Xie, in order to achieve the effect of killing him instantly without a chance to resist, I used a similar attack method, compressing and stacking the extreme magic power of dual fire. After the compressed magic power is injected into the opponent's body through a close attack, the effect of the Yin and Yang double attribute combination skill is also produced in the opponent's body, thus causing great destruction." There was a trace of surprise in Yin Zhaoyang's eyes. He said, "So, you have already mastered this kind of compression method?" Ji Dong didn't hide anything. He told him about how he got the Jade of Heaven on the Holy Evil Island and how he practiced the God-killing strike. He also knew now that the God-killing strike was a unique skill of nine-crown magicians, but he had learned it in advance. After listening to Ji Dong's story, Yin Zhaoyang's expression became slightly more serious. He said, "What a good God-killing strike. You have to practice these 10 skills well. They will be very beneficial to you in the future. If you want, you can teach them to Fury. Jidong nodded without hesitation. He said, "No problem, Grandmaster. I originally planned to ask you to teach me the God-killing strike." In Xiaoyang smiled and shook his head. He said, "I don't need it. I have already formed a way to compress my own magic power. It's not good to practice something else. Concentration is very important for any magician." "What about chaos? You haven't told me yet." Jidong said, "Martial Ancestor, I felt that your usage of the chaotic flame was a bit stiff. If I'm not mistaken, you lost at least half of your chaotic flame in that strike." In Xiaoyang's expression changed slightly. He said, "How did you see that?" Jidong said, "Because you output pure chaotic flame. In order to break the opponent's ultimate dual water magic combination attack, you should have used your huge magic power of 9 crowns to force the condensed chaotic flame out of your body. Then, you use them as ordinary flames to attack. The meaning of chaos is creation. When the chaotic flame came into contact with the opponent's magic combination, its creation characteristic destroyed the balance of the opponent's magic combination. When the yin and yang attributes could not reach a state of balance, they backfired on each other and defeated the opponent in one fell swoop. However, you should not have mastered the true use of the chaotic flame. Otherwise, after the attack, your chaotic flame would not have weakened a lot. It should have remained unchanged. Moreover, as far as I know, when using the power of chaos to attack, the real appearance should not be the chaotic flame, but the fire of the soul. This is because the power of chaos can only be used after it is integrated with the spiritual power in the soul. Only then can it be used by us and truly display its creation characteristic." Shock. After listening to Jidong's words, Yin Xiaoyang's heart was filled with shock. For many years, it could be said that he had been practicing like an ascetic monk. Under constant closed-door training, he gradually touched the edge of chaos. Especially after sensing Jidong's origin of chaos and being guided by it, he had obtained the chaotic flame in recent years. However, after all, he had no experience and didn't know how to use the chaotic flame. He could only output it in his own way. At this time, after listening to Jidong's words, he really understood some of the mysteries of chaos. The combination of chaos and the soul, the fire of the soul. These words kept repeating in Yin Xiaoyang's mind. Vaguely, he had grasped something. He knew that the door of chaos had finally opened to him at this time. "Grandmaster, are you okay?" Fury had never seen Yin Xiaoyang's expression change so unpredictably. He didn't know whether it was happy or angry. His eyes were constantly flashing with the light of thinking, and he didn't say anything for a long time. Yin Xiaoyang let out a long sigh, and his expression returned to normal. He looked at Hyoheim with sparkling eyes and said, "Did the woman in the bamboo hat teach you all this?" Jidong was stunned. After a slight hesitation, he nodded. Yin Xiaoyang thought for a moment and sighed. "Jidong, thank her for me." Yin Xiaoyang thought for a moment, then sighed and said, "Jidong, thank her for me. In the future, I will have an epiphany. Thanks to your words today, your growth speed is much faster than I expected. I have nothing more to teach you. You and Fury are the future of our fire lineage. In the near future, the continent is likely to undergo a drastic change. You two brothers must always stay close together to resist the foreign enemies. After this matter is over, I will return to the seaside with your master's wife for closed-door training. If there is anything important, you can come back to find us." Jidong and Fury looked at each other and said respectfully, "Yes." Yin Xiaoyang took a deep look at Jidong. The top expert of the continent suddenly realized that his grand disciple's fate was no longer in his control, and he couldn't see where his future would be. Just at this moment, Shui Mingyue's voice sounded from not far away. "Your Holiness Shangguang." Yin Xiaoyang slowly turned around and saw Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun walking over together. At this moment, their expressions were already very calm, as though they didn't suffer a huge blow just now. The two of them came in front of Yin Xiaoyang and bowed at the same time. Yin Xiaoyang didn't stop them and let them bow. Straightening her back, Shui Mingyue said, We understand Your Holiness Shangguang's painstaking efforts. Thank you for pulling us back from the wrong path. Feng Yun and I both understand. From now on, we will go into closed-door training and hope to see the door that you have guided us to. If Your Holiness has any need in the future, Shui Mingwei will not refuse. Yin Zhaoyang slightly nodded and said, You guys can wake up so quickly it's not in vain. How about this? My sister and I are going to return to the coast of the East Sea for closed-door training. That place is closer to the Saint and Evil Passage. Facing the sea, we can guard the entrance of the passage and also cultivate in a quiet environment. If you two are willing, why don't you come with us? I will not be stingy. These years, I have gone into closed-door training many times, and it can be said that I have comprehended some things. Although our attributes are different, maybe I can help you avoid some detours. Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyin were overjoyed when they heard this, and said, That's great! Your Holiness Shangguang, we can't repay you. Please accept our bow. While saying that, the two Supreme Masters of Water actually knelt down in front of so many people and kowtowed to Yin Zhaoyang. Looking at the way they bowed, Yin Zhaoyang smiled again. Of course, it wasn't because of Shui Mingyue and Shui Mingyue's respect towards him, but because he understood that this pair of Water Supremes had finally thrown away all the restrictions of fame and power. Chapter 252. Yin Zhaoyang helped Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyin up and said, Your Majesty, you don't have to do this. We could just spar with each other. Our attributes are different. It would be helpful to spar with each other. Since the two of you are willing to come with us, let's go. Yes. Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyin finally understood what they had wasted. Yin Zhaoyang had sacrificed a portion of the chaotic flame to remind them of the goal of a 9 crowns expert. They no longer had any hatred towards Yin Zhaoyang. Instead, they were filled with admiration and did the etiquette of a disciple in front of him without hesitation. Brother Zhaoyang, please wait a moment. Ji Zhangxin's voice rang out. He pulled Shangwan Yinkong and appeared in front of Yin Zhaoyang and the other two in a flash. Ji Zhangxin and Shangwan Yinkong looked at each other and said, Brother Zhaoyang, I have to reunite with Yinkong today. The misunderstanding back then has been cleared, and we no longer have any attachments. Since you two are going into seclusion to research, how about the two of us? With the addition of us, the Earth Duo, we won't be a burden to you. Yin Zhaoyang laughed and said, Of course that's a good thing. However, we still need you to preside over the merger of the 5 guilds. We can't just leave like this. Shangwan Yinkong smiled and said, That's nothing. It's been dozens of years, and I haven't cared about the matters of the guild. I'm ashamed to say that I've long lost the qualifications to be the guild leader. Shiluo, I've already passed the guild leader's token to you. From today onwards, you will officially take over the position of the guild leader. Although the Magic Skill Guild lost to us, in the process of the merger, there must be no discrimination. We will exchange pointers and exchange pointers. Guild leader, Shiluo wanted to say something, but was stopped by Shangwan Yinkong. Back then, I left the guild because of my own matters. Over the past few decades, you have been in charge of all the affairs of the guild. I've let the guild down, and I don't have the face to continue being the guild leader. In truth, you've already been the guild leader for a long time, so there's no need to say anything more. I've already made up my mind. My stubbornness and self-opinionation have caused the misunderstandings back then to expand endlessly. The misunderstandings between me and Changxin have finally been resolved. In the future, I only wish to accompany my husband. Fellow members of the Magic Guild, I, Shangwan Yinkong, hereby apologize to all of you. Although I will no longer be in the guild, if the guild faces any danger in the future, I, Shangwan Yinkong, will still protect the guild. After saying that, the 6 Supremes looked at each other and smiled. All the previous grudges seemed to have been melted by the chaotic flames of Yin Zhaoyang. The 6 Supremes, who represented the strongest 9-crown Supremes in the world, soared into the sky at the same time and headed towards the east. Their mounts also flew up and followed closely behind. Only Yin Zhaoyang's Flame Dragon King remained in the sky, hugging the sacred evolution fire dragon as it left reluctantly. No one had expected the final result to be like this. Seeing the 6 Supremes leave, everyone felt a sense of loss. Looking at their gradually disappearing figures, it seemed that the grudges between the 2 guilds had also gradually faded. The Magician Guild and the Magic Skills Guild were bound to merge. Although the Magic Skills Guild still had great strength and both sides did not have Supremes, don't forget that the Prince of Equality, Ji Yunsheng, was still here. He was here to be the referee. The outcome had already been decided. The Diamond Core was not to be trifled with. Moreover, Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyun had already told the Magic Skills Guild to keep their promise before they left. The merger was only a matter of time and specific details. Fury put an arm around Ji Dong's shoulder and said, "Little junior brother, you can't run away this time, right? We brothers haven't seen each other for 4 years. We must have a good drink today. Even if I'm willing to let you go, Big Brother Cannon Dragon will definitely not let you go." Ah Bing rubbed his bald head with one hand and chuckled, "Of course, I'll let you guys have a taste of my best barbecue skill today." The flaming bar temporarily returned to the core world. Grandmaster and Grandmaster's wife had also left. Ji Dong did not have any worries in his heart, so he naturally would not reject. Ji Dong walked up to Shi Luo and said, "Vice President, today's matter has come to an end. Farewell." Looking at the young man in front of him, Shi Luo could not help but reveal a somewhat complicated light in his eyes. A month ago, the reason why he had tried so hard to invite this young man to participate in today's battle was mainly because of the help he could bring. In fact, Ji Dong's influence had even far exceeded his imagination. Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, 2 supreme experts, had come for him. Although the Heavenly Spirit King, Ji Changxin, had come mainly for Shangwan Yinkong, part of the reason was also because of him. Moreover, there was also the Prince of Equality, Ji Yunsheng. On the surface, Ji Yunsheng claimed to be the judge, but everyone could see that he was biased towards the Magic Guild. If not for Ji Dong, would he have mobilized the entire Diamond Army to participate in the merger of the 2 guilds? One must know that this Prince of Equality was the person with the most power in the Middle-earth Empire. Even the current Emperor of the Middle-earth Empire was gradually inferior to him. If Ji Dong was his other grandson, then it was very likely that he would be the next Prince of Equality in the future. The original direct heir, Ji Yejia, had already been adopted into the royal family and became the current crown prince. With just a little thought, Shi Luo could feel the terrifying power behind this young man in front of him. However, compared to this, what shocked Shi Luo the most was still Ji Dong's own strength. In terms of real combat strength, Shi Luo was naturally not afraid of Tian Xie. He was confident that he could easily deal with his opponent. However, when Tian Xie started to throw out magic skill scrolls, Shi Luo knew that it was not so easy to deal with him, especially when Tian Xie started to throw out magic skill scrolls. Shi Luo knew that if it were him, he would definitely not be able to stop him. However, Ji Dong did all of this. Not only did he stop Tian Xie, he even killed him directly. From the beginning to the end of the battle, he had completely suppressed Tian Xie. Shi Luo had to admit that in terms of strength, if other external factors were not taken into account, he might not be a match for this young man who was only at level 61. He was only at level 61. Ultimate Dual Fire was such a terrifying and strange attribute. If one day he also advanced to 9 crowns, what would the situation be like? Shi Luo didn't even dare to imagine. The shock that this young man brought him was too great. Vice President Shi Luo. Ji Dong saw that Shi Luo was in a daze and couldn't help but call him again. "Ah." Shi Luo woke up from his thoughts and said, "Mr. Ji Dong." "Oh no, I should call you Elder Ji Dong now. I can't thank you enough, and I know I can't keep you here. Let's not talk about anything else. Here's a small gift. Consider it a little repayment from the Magic Guild. You must accept it. The Magic Guild is your home. If you need help in any city, you can find the local Magic Guild for help." As he spoke, he stuffed 2 things into Ji Dong's hand. When Ji Dong looked down, he found that it was a token and a storage ring. He didn't look at what was in the ring, but the token attracted his attention. This token was almost the same as the one Shi Luo used to open the Magic Guild's treasure vault that day. There was no difference in size or style, but there was no small piece of heaven jade in the middle. Instead, it was replaced by a non-attribute transparent gem. Without a doubt, this should be the token of the Magic Guild's elder. He didn't know that this token represented not only the elder, but also the guest elder. In the Magic Guild, it had the same authority as the vice president. Fury chuckled and said, "Vice President, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. I'm also here to help." Shiluo laughed and said, "Fury, you brat. You still have the nerve to ask me for something? I don't know how long you've had the Elder Token, but how many times have you come to the Magic Guild?" Fury said, "Vice President, do you want to go and have a drink with us? Let me tell you a secret. My little junior is also at the level of a 9-star bartender." Shiluo smiled bitterly and said, "Don't seduce me. You also know that I'm a drunkard. There's so many things to deal with here. How can I leave? Let's talk about it next time." At this moment in the sky, the majestic voice of the Fire Dragon King sounded, "Jidong." Jidong looked up into the sky and saw the Fire Dragon King descending with the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon. The Fire Dragon King, Hyoheim, nodded and said, "Thank you. Mao Tai and Wulianya have already told me that you and Her Majesty saved them. It wasn't easy for us mother and daughter to reunite. Can you let them return to the Fire Dragon Valley with me?" The Fire Dragon King's voice was very gentle, and it looked at Jidong with gratitude. Although the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon didn't look like a fire dragon anymore due to its mutation, it understood what kind of price Jidong and the Flaming Bar Queen had paid in order to hatch their children. She could also feel the flame of chaos burning in the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's body. Therefore, when she spoke to Jidong, it was completely in a negotiating tone. Before Jidong could speak, Mao Tai and Wulianya shook their heads at the same time and struggled in their mother's arms. The look in the Fire Dragon King's eyes changed slightly, and it said sadly, "Children." Mao Tai and Wulianya were only at the 8th level, so naturally, they couldn't speak. They could only whimper. The dragon race had their own way of communication. The Fire Dragon King listened to them and couldn't help but let out a long sigh and said, "Girls really can't be kept at home when they grow up. The attraction of the Flame of Souls made them unwilling to leave you. Jidong, are you willing to accept my invitation to the Dragon Valley and meet the children's father?" Go to the Dragon Valley? To be honest, Jidong had some thoughts about this mysterious place. However, he didn't agree to it because to him, there were more important things to do. "I'm sorry, Senior Fire Dragon King. I'm afraid I can't go with you to the Dragon Valley. Mao Tai and Wulianya, you can go with Senior Fire Dragon King. How about I wait for you at the coast of the East Sea before the battle between Saint and Evil begins?" Hearing Jidong's words, Mao Tai and Wulianya shook their heads violently at the same time. They looked at Jidong with pleading eyes. Through the connection between their souls, Jidong could clearly feel their attachment to him. No matter what, they weren't willing to leave his side. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel a little troubled. The Fire Dragon King sighed and let go of the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's right wing. With a flash of light, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon had already arrived at Jidong's side. Its 2 large heads fought to be the first to rub against his body. It seemed that it had only been a short time away from his side, but it was already filled with longing. The Fire Dragon King said, "Back then, it was all my fault. I didn't take good care of the children, and that bastard Feng Shuang took advantage of them. How can I force the children to do things that they don't want to do?" With a flash of red light, a fiery red dragon scaled the size of a wash basin flew in front of Jidong. Jidong subconsciously reached out to receive it. "Jidong, the Fire Dragon Valley welcomes you at any time. Chaoyang is in seclusion, and I have to return to the Fire Dragon Valley to deal with some clan matters. When you're free, you must bring Mao Tai and Wulianya back to visit me. Okay?" Large drops of tears flowed down the corners of the Fire Dragon King's eyes and dripped onto the ground, melting the soil. Mao Tai and Wulianya whimpered a few times. They looked at the Fire Dragon King with obvious reluctance, but they were even more reluctant to leave Jidong's side. They refused to leave him no matter what. The Fire Dragon King raised its head to the sky and let out a long roar. No matter what, she had finally found her children. Furthermore, After the mutation, the sacred evolution fire dragon would have an even greater future than her. It looked at the sacred evolution fire dragon with reluctance, then spread its wings and soared into the sky. Just before it left, Hyoheim asked, Ji-dong, can you tell me why you gave my children names like Maotai and Wulianya? Hearing the Fire Dragon King's question, Ji-dong was speechless. He couldn't possibly tell the Fire Dragon King that he had given the children the names of the wines. Could he? Senior Fire Dragon King, after the battle between the holy and evil ends, I will definitely bring Maotai and Wulianya to the Fire Dragon Valley to see you. The Fire Dragon King Hyoheim nodded and said, Focus on the scales, and you will find the path to the Fire Dragon Valley. As a mother, I beg you to take good care of my children. When you arrive at the Fire Dragon Valley, you will definitely repay me. Ji-dong smiled and said, Senior, don't worry. Maotai and Wulianya are not only my magical beast companions, but also my family. They also have the same bloodline as me. He wasn't exaggerating. In the process of incubating Maotai and Wulianya, his blood played a crucial role. Although this body belonged to the Five Elements continent, after Ji-dong's soul entered this body and fused with it, everything in the body had already changed. If it wasn't for his blood, Maotai and Wulianya wouldn't have mutated into the appearance of the Huaxia Divine Dragon. Once again, Hyoheim nodded. The Fire Dragon King spread its wings, turned around, and left. Maotai and Wulianya let out a long roar at the same time. The Fire Dragon King in the sky replied with a long dragon roar and gradually disappeared into the distance. Ji Yunsheng sat upright on the back of the Diamond Dragon. Hyoheim said, I have to go as well. The two big guilds can be considered to have a perfect ending. Ji-dong, do you want to return to the king's residence with me? Ji-dong shook his head and said, No, grandfather. I still have something to deal with. Chapter 253. Ji Yunsheng didn't say much. Ever since Ji-dong left the Prince Equivalent's residence, he understood that he couldn't control his grandson's fate. The Diamond Dragon spread its wings and soared into the sky. It glanced at the sacred evolution fire dragon with some fear. It couldn't wait to leave. When it flew away, its speed was at least 30% faster than usual. With Ji Yunsheng's departure, the Diamond Legion quietly left like a tide. Of course, this was on the premise that Ji-dong recalled the sacred evolution fire dragon back into the core of life and continued to replenish its vitality. The Demon Lord Yin-yang armor and the core of life were also reintegrated into his body under the effect of the Fusion Divine incantation. Hello walked alone to the Magic Skills Guild. On the Magic Skills Guild side, Wofer also walked out. The two old rivals faced each other in the open space between the two sides. Hello was the first to reveal a smile on his face. He said, I didn't win, and you didn't lose. From now on, we are all one family. Wofer also smiled. He said, His Holiness Shang Guang has pointed out the future for us. Let's not talk about the past. You'll be busy with the two major guilds in the future. After the merger is completed, I will also go into seclusion. Hello said, You wish. You want to hand over such a big business after the merger to me alone? Do you want to tire me to death? I won't let you run away. Wofer said angrily, Can I even hide? No. Hello returned in angry glare. These two 8-crowned Skylords, who were over 80 years old, glared at each other again. It seemed that they had returned to the past. You are still so annoying, Hello said unhappily. Wofer snorted. You're not a good person either. The anger in their eyes turned into a smile. Suddenly, the two of them laughed at the same time. Perhaps this was what they meant by a smile when they met. Cannon Dragon put his arm around Ji-dong's shoulder. He said, Let's go and have a drink. Coming in too. Zhu Yin came out from the side and said with an aggrieved expression, Sister-in-law and teacher left without me. That's so disloyal. Cannon Dragon, you little bastard. How dare you not call me when you drink? Cannon Dragon was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, Come, let's go together. How can I miss out on your wine? Come to my place, and I will provide you with as much as you want. Fury didn't ride the purple Thunder Heaven's dragon. The four of them, young and old, walked towards the Central Plains city under the envious gazes of the magicians of the two big guilds. The storm between the two big guilds finally came to an end. A whiff of incense. The hall on the first floor. There was a table that could accommodate 10 people, but there were only 4 people sitting at it. One of them was wearing a chef's uniform, but he had taken off his chef's hat, revealing his bald head. He only had one arm, and he was drinking iced ale in big mouthfuls. A tall, burly man with short hair that resembled steel needles and a resolute face filled with danger was drinking with a man dressed as a chef. Their shouts were not soft at all. A red-haired old man was squatting on a chair in a wretched manner. One of his hands was holding a large skewer of meat, and he was gnawing on it nonstop. His other hand was holding a glass of ale, and he was taking a sip of ale and a bite of meat. He didn't even seem to have the energy to talk. The last person was also the only one that could be considered normal. Although he wasn't eating and drinking intensely, his movements weren't slow at all. Without a doubt, these 4 people were naturally Fury, Jidong, the boss of a whiff of incense, Cannon Dragon, and the master of magic weapon craftsman Zhu Yan. Cannon Dragon had originally planned to eat in the largest private room on the 3rd floor, but Zhu Yan insisted on eating in the hall on the 1st floor. He said that he could only get the feeling of eating in such a noisy environment. Hence, the scene in front of them happened. The largest table was occupied by the 4 of them, and they were eating and drinking without any scruples. Cannon Dragon Abing was cooking personally. Just the aroma of the meat skewers was enough to make one drool, let alone eat them. Jidong and Fury didn't mix their drinks. In such an atmosphere and environment, what could be more satisfying than eating big chunks of meat and drinking big mouthfuls of ale? Abing wiped the alcohol off his mouth and said, "Damn it, Fury. Do you know what's the most painful thing for me after I only have one arm left?" Fury asked, "What is it?" Abing laughed and said, "With only one arm left, I can't hold meat in one hand and beer in the other. I can only do it one by one." Fury's eyes narrowed. "Big brother, it's all because of me that you—" Bing slapped his bald head and said, "Why am I saying this, Fury? I've heard you say this more than 100 times. We're brothers, so don't talk about who you're doing it for. If you and Jidong were on the battlefield and he was in danger, you wouldn't have done any less than I did." At this point, Bing placed the big mug in his hand on the table and said, "Actually, there are many things I haven't told you all this time. It's fine to say it now. I've never regretted saving you. If I could do it again, I would still do it. It's not because you're talented or have a bright future. It's because you're my brother. As a big brother, if I don't protect my brother, what kind of big brother am I?" After I came back, I realized I was crippled. I couldn't stay in the Enyang school anymore. I was really in pain then. Cannon Dragon, couldn't fire cannonball attacks at the enemy anymore. What F** King Cannon Dragon? I was depressed and even thought of suicide. It was Tai, your master's wife, who saved me. She slapped me and asked me, "Bing, are you a man? Do you want to die from such a small setback?" Bing had imitated Yin Zhaorong's voice perfectly. He had said it in a soothing voice, but in Fury in Jidong's ears, it was not humorous at all. They could feel Bing's pain. As a devil master, and one with a bright future in Yin Yang school, he was crippled just like that. One could imagine the pressure and pain he had to bear. In our academy, the person I trust the most is Lord Tai. Whenever I see Lord Tai, I'm like a mouse seeing a cat. Someone once said that I, the Cannon Dragon, became a tame dragon when I saw Lord Tai. In fact, it's all out of gratitude. If it weren't for her, I would have died long ago. Even this fragrant shop was given to me by her, but no one knows about this. Later on, I gradually got over it and realized that there's a way to live. I'm already satisfied to be able to stay in the Central Plains city and see you guys occasionally. But I'm still a little unwilling. I'm looking forward to a miracle. So, I've never stopped practicing. Just a few months ago, I started to feel that something was wrong. I've always been increasing the demonic power in my body, hoping to break through the obstruction of my meridians one day, but I found that it's already impossible. The demonic power in my body has condensed into a solid state, and my meridians are becoming more and more unable to support it. I know that my life is coming to an end, and I've even written my will.
At this point, Ah Bing's burning gaze had already landed on Ji Dong. He said, "But I didn't die. God blessed me. Brother Ji Dong came to me. To be honest, until now, I still don't know what you did for me. Not only did you clear all my blocked meridians, but you also allowed the mana in my body to circulate normally. Even my weak meridians became extremely strong. When I woke up, the first thing I felt was that I was 10 years younger. My body was full of vitality. I always thought of myself as a man, but at that moment, King cried. I cried because I couldn't live up to my expectations. I never thought that there would be a day where I could recover. Ji Dong, listen to me." Ah Bing stopped Ji Dong, who was about to speak, and continued. "At that time, I thought that you gave me a new life. Although I was a cripple, I still have some judgment. If I'm not wrong, you must have used some kind of treasure on me. Otherwise, even if my blocked meridians were cleared, I wouldn't be as full of vitality as I am now. Not only did my mana not decline, but it even improved greatly. My meridians are even stronger than normal devil masters. Brother, tell me, what did you do to me? If you recognize me as your brother, don't lie to me." Looking at the determination in Ah Bing's eyes, Ji Dong sighed softly and said, "Actually, it's nothing much. I just used my mana to nourish your body in a bottle of the Forest Demon Tribe source of life to help you strengthen your body. Brother Ah Bing, if you want to say anything to express your gratitude, then don't say it. When you saved my senior brother, did you expect him to be grateful to you? You said it yourself, we are brothers. Of course, I recognize you as my brother. Since you are my brother, shouldn't I save you? Source of life." Hearing those words, Zhu Yin immediately stopped eating, and the slightly nervous second brother grabbed Ji Dong's wrist. "Brother, you said you used the source of life? No wonder Ah Bing was able to recover. Even your grandmaster and mistress couldn't think of a way to make him recover to his original state and even reconstruct his meridians. Back then, your mistress also personally treated Ah Bing, but she couldn't do anything. I didn't expect you to solve it just like that." Ah Bing asked doubtfully, "What is the source of life?" Not everyone knew about this fine wine that was condensed from life. It is said that every drop of the source of life needs to be nurtured in the forest for more than 100 years. The best source of life even needs to be nurtured for 1,000 years. In the list of the 10 famous wines passed down from ancient times, the source of life is ranked 4th. It is also one of the few famous ancient wines that we can find. This wine can bring the dead back to life. No matter how serious the injury or how severe the disease, a drop of the source of life can keep one alive, and a bottle of the source of life can bring the dead back to life. Don't even talk about drinking it. As the president of the Central Plains City branch of the Bartenders Guild, I haven't even seen it before. In the black market, a bottle of the source of life can be sold for more than 1,000,000 gold coins, and even then, there is no supply. It is truly a priceless treasure. Even though Ji Dong kept signaling Fury with his eyes, Fury still told him everything he knew in his excitement. As the vice president of the Bartenders Guild and the president of the Central Plains City branch, he knew much more about the source of life than Ji Dong. Ah Bing kept looking at Ji Dong. After hearing Fury's words, he laughed heartily and said, "The source of life. What a good source of life. I didn't live my life in vain. I actually tasted one of the 10 famous ancient wines." Good. Seeing that Ah Bing didn't have any special reaction, Ji Dong heaved a sigh of relief. He was definitely not a person who would repay kindness. He saved Ah Bing because he wanted to return the favor on behalf of his senior, and also because he admired Ah Bing's character. He didn't notice that in the midst of his laughter, Ah Bing's eyes were shining with determination and persistence. In his heart, he had already made an important decision. Ji Dong's interest was also piqued by Fury's words. He asked, "Senior, what are the 10 famous ancient wines that you mentioned?" Fury said, "Speaking of the 10 famous ancient wines, we have to trace back to the era of the Holy War between our 5 Elements continent and the 5 Elements continent. Our Bartenders Guild was also established at that time. Our first president was an extremely powerful devil master. In that era, he was ranked in the top 10 strongest devil masters. However,
His life's pursuit was to search for famous wines. After 50 years of searching, in his later years, he compiled a record of famous wines. There are only 10 types of wines recorded in it, which I call the 10 famous ancient wines. These 10 famous wines not only included the famous wines from our five-element continent, but also a few from the five-element continent. In order to search for famous wines, our first president once sneaked into the five-elements continent to search for them. It was at that time that he was besieged on the five-elements continent. Although he managed to escape, he was severely injured. After returning to the Bartenders Guild and writing down the record of famous wines, he passed away not long after. His biggest regret was not being able to gather the 10 famous ancient wines together. The Source of Life was ranked 4th among the 10 famous wines. Ji Dong asked curiously, "Where are the other 9 famous wines? Do you know their whereabouts?" Fury said, "Ji Dong, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but the Bartenders Guild has its own rules. The 10 famous ancient wines are the guild's biggest secret. If you didn't tell me about the Source of Life, I wouldn't have mentioned it. However, I can't tell you about the 10 famous wines unless you are willing to join the Bartenders Guild and pass the 9 Stars Bartender exam." I only knew about the existence of the 10 famous wines after passing the 9 Stars Bartender exam. After hearing what Fury said, Ji Dong couldn't help but smile. He said, "Senior, there's still some time before the battle between the Saint and the Devil. I was thinking of making a trip to the Bartenders Guild during this time." Chapter 254. Fury was taken aback. "You want to go to the Bartenders Guild? Didn't you say you didn't want to join? Could it be for the sake of the 10 famous wines?" Ji Dong shook his head. "Senior brother, I just want to go to the Bartenders Guild to learn from each other." Fury smiled bitterly and said, "Are you going to spar or cause trouble? I'm afraid that only President Du Sikong can spar with you. I still remember that when we brothers first met, it was you who ran to my Central Plain City's branch to cause trouble. Now that I mention it, my branch's reputation is still in the gutter. It's not like I can beat you up in public." Ji Dong laughed. "Actually, destroying the place is also a kind of promotion. It will promote the bartenders to focus more on improving their skills, letting them see more exquisite bartending techniques, just like how a magician sees a powerful magic skill. As for whether or not they can comprehend it, it will depend on their own understanding and perseverance." Fury helplessly said, "I can't win against you, but you have to take it easy. President Du Sikong is a good person, and our Magician Guild is also a place of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. You have to be careful. If it wasn't for the lack of time, I would definitely go with you. Unfortunately, the battle between the saint and evil is imminent. I have to stay here." Ji Dong said, "Tomorrow." Fury was stunned for a moment. "So urgent?" Ji Dong laughed. "Reading 10,000 books is not as good as walking 10,000 miles. I have long planned to travel around the continent to increase my knowledge. It's just that I've been training all the time and didn't have the time. I feel that opening up my mind and walking around the outside world is beneficial to my cultivation." Fury smiled. "You're right. When I was your age, I also couldn't stay in the academy. It's really good to travel outside. Then you should go. Remember, before the Holy Demonic Passage opens, come find us 10 days in advance. This time, you'll be the main force." Fury smiled. Ji Dong said, "Definitely." At this moment, Zhu Yin said with a drunken look, "Ji Dong, when you were fighting with that guy from the Magic Skills Guild, I saw you release the Demon Lord Yin Yang armor from your body. Did you learn some special skill?" Ji Dong smiled and said, "Sort of. I think it's a very useful skill, but it usually consumes some magic power. This skill is called Divine Fusion." Immediately, he briefly explained the process of how he bought the Fusion Divine incantation from the Guild of Magicians. After hearing his words, Zhu Yan's eyes widened. His previous drunkenness seemed to have dissipated a lot. He said, "It's actually a fusion divine art. Brother, you aren't planning to use your own demonic energy to nourish the Monarch Devil Yin Yang armor, are you?" Ji Dong nodded and said, "I do have this idea. Is there anything wrong with it?" Zhu Yin beamed. "No, of course not. To think that you could come up with this idea. For ordinary magicians, this divine fusion technique is of little value. But for people like you who have extreme mana, is a top-notch demonic technique. High-grade demonic weapons can only be nourished with high-grade mana. Just like your Yin-Yang Monarch armor, if it had ordinary fire attribute mana, it would be useless even if it was nourished for 1,000 years. However, with dual flames are different. As long as you nourish it without fighting, not only will it gradually increase its power, it will also become more compatible with your own attributes. You made a profit. You've really made a profit by buying this divine fusion technique. However, the Yin-Yang Monarch armor is only a light armor. There is still a certain gap between it and a demigod-level demonic weapon. How about this? Get it to me first, Fury Boy. I'll go with you back to the Heavenly STEM Academy. Fury was stunned for a moment. Then he said with joy, Martial Uncle, you're willing to go back with me? Zhu Yin said, if it wasn't for your Grandmaster ordering me to go back to help you brats, do you think I would have stayed? If it were up to me, I would never go back. I've already left. It would be too embarrassing to go back. Fury hurriedly shook his head and said, No, you don't know how much those board members are looking forward to your return. To be frank, even Master and Master's wife don't have a higher status than you in the Academy. Fury's words were not an exaggeration. In the Heavenly STEM Academy, if one were to say who was the most popular person, it wouldn't be Fury, nor would it be the board members, or even the beauties of the various departments in the Academy. It was Zhu Yin. As one of the most famous magic weapon forging masters in the world, he was the target of everyone's flattery, including the board members. Who didn't want to have a good magic weapon? Even if it was an original magic weapon that was slightly modified by Zhu Yin, it could still be improved. As the saying goes, rare materials are easy to obtain, but craftsmen are hard to find. Although there was less than a year before the demonic Saint Passage opened again, with Zhu Yan's participation, it would be enough to upgrade the equipment of the main force of the Yin-Yang school. Zhu Yan drank a big mouthful of ale and said, Sure, Rue, I'll say this. This time, I'm going back mainly to help my brother complete the Demon Monarch Yin-Yang armor. I can only help those brats along the way. I'll prepare the materials myself, and whatever materials I need to complete the armor for my brother will be provided by the Academy. If those ignorant board members don't agree, I'll leave immediately. Fury chuckled and said, Okay, that's easy. As long as Martial Uncle is willing, I'll agree to your conditions on behalf of the board members. Zhu Yin laughed strangely and said, Oh, it seems like you're doing well in the Heavenly STEM Academy. The Canon Dragonabbing laughed and said, That's pretty good. Fury is also one of the top 10 board members now, taking over Teacher Jerome's position and managing the 3rd Fire Department. The Heavenly STEM Academy's decision was naturally reasonable. First of all, in terms of strength, Fury was no longer weaker than any of the 8 crowned demon masters, and his prestige among the students was unparalleled. After Yi Xian and Fury reconciled, the students who were originally in Yi Xian's group had also integrated into Fury's side. He had led the Yin-Yang school 3 times, and the Heavenly STEM army had obtained the final victory on the Holy Evil battlefield. Fury's leadership ability was even more unquestionable. In addition, the Heavenly STEM Academy wanted to ease the relationship with the 2 Fire Supremes, so Fury, being the board member of the 3rd Fire Department, was clearly the most suitable. In this way, the ill feelings of the Zhurong and Yin Zhaorong couple towards the Academy would naturally lessen. This decision by the Heavenly STEM Academy's Board of Directors could be considered to have considered all aspects. Zhidong said, Big brother, I'll pass the Demon Monarch Yin-Yang armor to you later. When Fury heard that Zhu Yin wanted to return to the Heavenly STEM Academy with him, he was instantly in a good mood. He laughed and said, Uncle Master, come, let me toast you. Let's not go home until we're drunk today. The 4 of them raised their huge wine cups at the same time and continued their carefree eating and drinking. At this moment, suddenly, a somewhat discordant voice sounded from aside. You guys, lower your voice. This is a public place. Don't you have any civility? The voice came from behind Ji Dong, in the direction of the Canon Dragonabbing. Ji Dong and the other 3 were indeed a bit loud, but because of their strange appearance, the Canon Dragon's ferocious appearance, and Fury's tall appearance, no one dared to say anything. At this time, there weren't many diners either. With a bang, the cannon dragon, abbing, slammed the table and stood up. He said, "I'm loud. It's none of your business. If you don't want to listen, scram. I'm not doing business with you anymore." He had a bad temper to begin with, and now that he was entertaining Fury, Jidong, and Zhu Yin, he was naturally in a bad mood when he was interrupted. Fury pulled the cannon dragon back and said with a smile, "Big brother, forget it. We were a bit loud, but we don't want to affect your business." The cannon dragon snorted and said, "I told you to close the shop for now, lest it affect us brothers drinking. Business is not as important as brothers." Jidong turned his head and looked behind him. When he saw the table where the four of them had reprimanded him, he couldn't help but be stunned. There were only two people there, a man and a woman. The one who spoke was Qing Yin, who didn't look much older than him. This young man had an imposing figure and was extremely handsome. His long golden hair was combed neatly, and in terms of appearance, Jidong couldn't compare to him. At this moment, he had already slammed the table and stood up, glaring angrily at Jidong. Jidong didn't know this young man, but the young girl sitting opposite him, who had stood up anxiously to stop the young man from speaking again, looked vaguely familiar to Jidong. The young girl's long silver hair fell all the way to her hips, and her large purple eyes were as clear as water. Looking at her, one's eyes would immediately light up. Although she couldn't compare to the perfection of the flaming bar, with her graceful figure and stunning appearance, she was actually a beauty on the same level as Ah Jin. However, unlike Ah Jin's cold gaze, this young girl's purple eyes were filled with gentleness. Although she was anxious, that gentle and beautiful gaze would still make people's hearts beat faster. Noticing that Jidong had turned around, the young girl's gaze froze slightly, and she lowered her head instinctively. Jidong clearly saw a hint of sadness flash across her eyes. "This is Lan Bao." Jidong's heart skipped a beat. As the saying goes, a girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood. When he left 4 years ago, Lan Bauer was around 16 years old. After not seeing her for 4 years, the Lan Bauer in front of him had not only grown taller, but her figure had also fully developed and was even more attractive. Especially when he saw the hint of sadness in her eyes, Jidong's heart ached for no reason. Lan Bauer's transformation was not small. The reason why Jidong could recognize her was that her silver hair and purple eyes were too distinctive. Although the young man with the golden hair was being pulled by Lan Bauer, he had no intention of letting the matter rest. He said, "Baldy, so what if this is your shop? Do you believe that I can shut down your shop with just a word?" The latter part of the conversation was nothing much. After all, it was natural for both parties to exchange insults. However, when Fury and Jidong heard the words Baldy, the two of them almost jumped up at the same time. On the contrary, the cannon dragon Abbing's expression calmed down. He grabbed Fury with one hand and sneered, "All right, little bastard, I'd like to see how you're going to shut up my incense stick. I don't want to work anymore. Kenny, stop talking. Let's go." Lan Bauer grabbed Qing Yin's arm and was about to pull him away. However, the young man with the golden hair refused to leave. He said, "Bauer, don't bother. These guys are too arrogant. This is the Central Plains city. Didn't you hear that Baldy scolding me? If I don't teach them a lesson today, my surname isn't Wolf." "Oh, so it's not a brat. It's a wolf cub." Zhu Yin was the only one on Jidong's side who did not stand up. He sat there and continued to eat and drink as he muttered, "Old fart, what did you say?" A sharp aura suddenly erupted from Lang Tiany's body. If it wasn't for Lan Bauer blocking in front of him, he would have rushed over. Fury looked at Cannon Dragon and said in a low voice, "Big brother, let me handle this. I want to see who dares to shut down my shop in the Central Plains city." As he spoke, he broke free from Cannon Dragon's grip and strode over. Jidong did not say anything, but he and Fury walked towards the young man with the golden hair. When Fury walked towards him, Lang Tiany's heart trembled slightly. This was because he discovered that the aura he emitted immediately bounced back when it came into contact with these burly men. It did not have any effect at all. Moreover, although the other party did not emit any mana fluctuations, the might of their bodies caused him to feel a chill in his heart. However, at this moment, there was a beauty by his side,
so he would not retreat no matter what. He puffed out his chest and glared at Fury fiercely. Since Ji Dong saw it, Fury naturally saw Lan Bauer as well. He said, "Bauer, is this your friend?" Lan Bauer was stunned for a moment. She glanced at Ji Dong before nodding and saying, "Our families are old friends. Senior brother Fury, I'm sorry. It's our fault. We'll leave now. It's all my fault." I didn't explain the situation clearly to him. Fury's expression softened a little. He clearly remembered the ambiguous relationship between Lan Bauer and Ji Dong. However, Ji Dong already had a woman that he did not dare to look at directly, so the matter between the two of them was left unsettled. But no matter what, Lan Bauer had taken care of Ji Dong when he was heavily injured, so he still had to give her some face. "Bauer, I'll give you this face. Get this brat to kneel in front of my elder brother and admit his mistake. I'll make the decision for today and let it go." "Senior brother," Lan Bauer called out to Fury, but just happened to see the cold look in Fury's eyes. She knew that Fury was truly enraged. She hurriedly turned to look at Lang Tianyi, but she did not know what to say. "Is there something wrong with your head? You want me to kowtow and admit my mistake? The four of you should kowtow and admit your mistake. Now, kowtow and admit your mistake, and I'll spare you. Otherwise, I'll flatten this shop in a while. What bullsh tea is this? You're either a cripple or a lunatic. Bauer, why did you bring me to this place?" Lang Tianyi was still clamoring. The lunatic he was referring to was naturally Zhu Yin, who was squatting on the chair and eating. Chapter 255. Today, he had finally managed to invite Lan Bauer out and asked her what she wanted to eat. Lan Bauer then brought him here. Lang Tianyi was originally prepared to pursue her. The smell of the incense had already made him a little unhappy, as he felt that it was not elegant enough. However, Lan Bauer was the one who brought him here, so he did not say anything. Just as he was about to pursue the goddess of his heart, the noise from Ji Dong and the others made him very unhappy, which led to the scene just now. Lang Tianyi was a well-known genius in his family, and he had been pampered since he was young. When had he ever been bullied? With the power of his family, he was a figure who could summon the wind and summon the rain in the Central Plains city. Naturally, he would not show any weakness. Fury nodded slowly, and his expression did not change. He said to Lan Bauer, "Bauer, you should go. Go back and train well. In the future, if there's nothing important, don't leave the academy easily. You don't have to worry about the matters here." Lan Bauer panicked and said, "Senior brother, don't be rash. Lang Tianyi is from the Diamond Legion. His father is the commander of the Diamond Legion, Lang Xie." Hearing Lan Bauer reveal his identity, Lang Tianyi's expression became even more arrogant. He looked at Fury and Ji Dong with disdain. Fury said calmly, "Forget about the Diamond Legion. Even if the Emperor were to come, he would not be able to do anything to my brother. Bauer, if you don't leave now, don't blame me for not showing you any mercy." Before Lan Bauer could say anything, Lang Tianyi had already taken a step forward, shielding her behind him. Dense earth-type magical power instantly bloomed from his body, and in the midst of the earth-yellow light, his entire body became transparent. Above his head, 6 white crowns instantly formed, revealing 6 crowns and 1 star. Fury and Ji Dong could not help but be taken aback by this scene. They did not expect this youth, who was only a few years older than Ji Dong, to have a magical power that was 1 level higher than Ji Dong, reaching level 62. No wonder he was so arrogant. He did have the capital to be so arrogant. Lang Tianyi said proudly, "Bauer calls you senior brother, so you must be from the Heavenly STEM Academy. In this world, the Heavenly STEM Academy is not the only academy that can cultivate outstanding magical masters. Our Diamond Legion is the #1 legion in the world. If you want to fight, I will accompany you to the end. Otherwise, like I said earlier, kowtow and apologize, especially that bald cripple." Before he could finish his last sentence, Fury had already made his move. His movement was very simple. He raised his right hand and directly slapped it. Lang Tianyi was naturally talented to be able to reach the level of 6 crowns at the age of 20. Fury suddenly made his move. He instantly raised his left hand, and the dense earth-type magical power of his elemental body met the attack.
He did not underestimate Fury. After all, from the conversation between Lon Bauer and the other party, he could tell that this person was also from the Heavenly STEM Academy's Enyang Hall and should be ranked higher than Lon Bauer. Therefore, he used his full strength in this attack. However, when Fury's large hand landed, the only thing he felt was Tai Rang's pressure. He had always been proud of his magical power, but in the face of Fury's right hand, it did not have any effect at all. He only felt his arm go numb, and it had already fallen. With a crisp slap, Lang Tiany's entire body was sent flying by Fury's slap. He smashed a table beside him, and then slammed heavily into the wall. Fury turned his head to look at Dong, and said plainly, "Little Junior, this is your family member. It's not appropriate for me to overstep my authority and interfere in this matter. You do as you see fit." After saying that, he directly walked back to Cannon Dragon Ah Bing's table. Ah Bing had already sat down again and continued eating and drinking as if nothing had happened. Lang Tiany was sent flying, and Fury had gone back. Only Ji Dong and Lon Bauer were left. Looking at Ji Dong, Lon Bauer opened her mouth a few times, but no words came out. It was as if something was stuck in her throat, and her purple eyes were already filled with tears. Ji Dong did not dare to look at those big purple eyes. He turned around and walked step by step towards Lang Tiany. He knew that Fury had not been ruthless with that slap just now, and was saving him some face. The Diamond Corps belonged to the King of Equality, and it could be said that they were servants of the King of Equality's bloodline. He was also the King of Equality's grandson, so Fury had already forcefully suppressed his anger by handing this matter over to him to handle. Lang Tiany smashed a deep hole in the wall. Although Earth Element magical power was good at defense, when he crawled up, the entire left side of his face was already swollen. With a puff, he spat out a few broken teeth and mumbled, "You dare hit me? Thunder Element magical power. Are you Thunder Emperor Fury?" Apart from extreme anger, Lang Tiany's handsome face, which was already somewhat distorted, was also filled with fear. Thunder Element magical power was the trademark of Fury, the Thunder Emperor. He knew very well about this Enyang Hall's top student and the youngest board member of the Heavenly STEM Academy. With Fury's prestige, it was impossible to say that he was not afraid. However, Lang Tiany had the support of the Diamond Corps and Lon Bauer, so he had a hold on no matter what. "Fury, you dare hit me? Don't forget that the Dean of the Heavenly STEM Academy is a member of the Middle Kingdom's royal family. Let's wait and see. Bauer, let's go." As he spoke, he wanted to go around Ji Dong and Lon Bauer to leave. He was not a fool, and could tell that these people before him were not people he could afford to offend. He had to go back and get reinforcements first. However, how could Ji Dong let him leave just like that? If that was the case, how was he going to explain it to Fury? He extended a hand and blocked the other party's path. Ji Dong said calmly, "You can leave if you want, but you heard my senior's words. Kowtow and apologize. Who do you think you are?" Although he was dizzy from Fury's slap, Lang Tiany's strength was still there. Dense magical power surged again, and his figure flashed. His right hand brought up 3 palm shadows, slashing straight at Ji Dong. Fury could afford to take it, and he was prepared to take it back on Ji Dong. Unfortunately, he still meant an iron plate. If Fury really had some misgivings, Ji Dong was all alone, and he had never considered himself a member of the King Pingding's family. He would not be merciful. Without releasing his magical power, Ji Dong also raised his hand, meeting force with force. The 3 palm shadows on Lang Tiany's palm seemed to be moving in slow motion in Ji Dong's eyes. Although Lang Tiany's magical power was 1 level higher than his, even Tian Xie, whose magical power was 23 levels higher than his, had to suffer a grievance, let alone a normal 6-crown magician who lacked actual combat experience. Ji Dong's hand and Lang Tiany's collided accurately. Lon Bauer wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Lang Tiany's attack was extremely fast. With a soft poof, Lang Tiany's hand was blocked by Ji Dong. In the next moment, Lang Tiany's eyes revealed a trace of intense shock. Then, in a series of low explosive sounds, Lang Tiany cried out in pain, and his whole body fell backwards, falling to the ground. You. Large drops of sweat rolled down Lang Tiany's head. The intense pain made it almost impossible for him to breathe. He stared at the youth in front of him, who was even younger than him. He had no idea how the other party had done it. Ji Dong said coldly, "You insulted my brother. I'll break your arm. Immediately kowtow and admit your mistake. Otherwise, if you make me attack again, I'll take your life." Tiany. Lon Bauer quickly rushed forward. She was shocked to see that Lang Tiany's entire right arm had become completely limp like a soft snake. It seemed as if the bones inside were broken inch by inch. Turning her head to see Hyohai move, Lon Bauer said, "Ji Dong, how could you be so heavy-handed? He's from the Diamond Army. The Diamond Army is under the King of Equality's command." You. Seeing that Lon Bauer was protecting Lang Tiany, Ji Dong did not know why, but he felt displeased. He took a step forward and reached out to grab Lang Tiany. Actually, Ji Dong had already held back. He had used the Deity Slayer strike to break Lang Tiany's arm, but he had not released the fire attribute of his magic power. Otherwise, whether it was Yin Fire or Yang Fire, Lang Tiany would have lost a layer of skin even if he did not die. After all, this person was from the Diamond Army. The Diamond Army had helped him during the Forest Demon Migration and the confrontation between the two major guilds. Ji Dong still showed some mercy. If it had been anyone else, he would not have wasted any words. "Ji Dong, the Diamond Army is not someone you can afford to offend." Lon Bauer hurriedly stood in front of Lang Tiany. "He's your man." Ji Dong's hand stopped in midair as he asked in a low voice. Lon Bauer was stunned for a moment. The next moment, big drops of tears rolled down her cheeks. She did not let Ji Dong attack, not because she wanted to protect Lang Tiany, but because she was worried that the Diamond Army would take revenge on Ji Dong. Ji Dong's question was like a sharp knife that pierced through her heart. However, Ji Dong misunderstood and thought that Lon Bauer was crying because she felt sorry for Lang Tiany. He retracted his hand and said, "Bauer, this person insulted my big brother Abing. He should be kowtowing and apologizing. For your sake, I will let him go this time. However, remember, I have repaid what I owe you." As he spoke, Ji Dong turned around and walked in front of Cannon Dragon Abing. He knelt on the ground with lightning speed and kowtowed 3 times in front of Abing. Abing was shocked. When he wanted to stop him, Ji Dong was already done. "Brother, what are you doing? Are you trying to anger me to death?" Abing pulled Ji Dong up angrily. Ji Dong looked in the direction of Lon Bauer and Lang Tiany coldly and said, "Take him and scram." Abing could ignore it and let Lang Tiany go because of him, but Ji Dong could not ignore it. His senior had left this matter to him to handle, so he had to give Cannon Dragon Abing and his senior an explanation. "Big brother, on the Holy Evil battlefield, Bauer took care of me for 10 days when I was heavily injured. I have to repay this kindness. That person is also under the command of the Diamond Corps. I apologize on his behalf." Abing grabbed Ji Dong's shoulder helplessly. He did not know what to say. Fury, who was sitting there drinking his wine, had calmed down. Hyoheim nodded. Lang Tiany struggled to get up from the ground. He pulled Lon Bauer with his other hand and was about to walk out. He really did not dare to say anything now. When Ji Dong had spoken to him earlier, the murderous intent in his eyes had chilled him to the core. Although he hated Ji Dong to the core, he did not dare to say anything else. What surprised Lang Tiany was that his pull did not pull Lon Bauer away. Enduring the pain, he lifted his head to look, only to discover that Lon Bauer's tears were falling like rain. Her gaze was fixed on the young man who had shattered her right arm with a single palm strike, and her lips were tightly pursed. "Bauer," Lang Tiany looked at her doubtfully. Go. Lon Bauer wailed loudly and pushed Lang Tiany away. Lang Tiany's arm was already in pain. Although he did not understand why, he urgently needed treatment. He did not dare to stay any longer. He looked at Lon Bauer strangely and turned around with deep resentment. He quickly exhaled a mouthful of incense. Ji Dong sat back in his seat and drank a big mouthful of wine. The cold wine gradually calmed his emotions. Behind him, the sound of stumbling footsteps could be heard. Ji Dong frowned slightly. He did not need to turn his head to know that Lon Bauer was walking towards him. From away, Lon Bauer pushed Lang Tianyi away and allowed him to leave on his own. Ji Dong vaguely understood that he had kowtowed 3 times unjustly. The relationship between Lon Bauer and Lang Tianyi did not seem to be what he had imagined. Ji Dong. Lon Bauer's trembling voice rang in Ji Dong's ear. Ji Dong tightened his grip on his wine glass. Is there anything else? Lon Bauer stood behind him. After a long time, she adjusted her breathing and said, Ji Dong, go. Leave the Central Plains city. The power of the Diamond Core is not something you can imagine. Lang Tianyi's father, Lang Xie, is extremely protective. He only has one son. You crippled one of his arms. He will not let this matter rest. Fury, who was standing at the side, suddenly said, Bauer, you stopped Ji Dong from asking that kid to apologize to my brother because you are afraid that the Diamond Core will take revenge on Ji Dong, right? Other than being family friends, do you have any other relationship with him? Lon Bauer was stunned. In the next moment, she saw Fury giving her a look. She immediately understood that Fury was helping her Hyoheim explain. She nodded and said, Senior, my father has a good relationship with the Lang family. He has known Lang Tianyi since he was young, but we have not seen each other for many years. He only recently ended his closed-door training. The last time my father and I visited his house, he insisted on treating me to a meal. For the sake of my father and Uncle Lang, I brought him here. Who knew that he would offend Big Brother Abing? Big Brother Abing, I'm sorry. I apologize to you. Abing waved his hand and said, Forget it, forget it. It's just a small matter. Lon Bauer lowered her head to look at the motionless Ji Dong. She said anxiously, Ji Dong, hurry up and leave. Uncle Lang Xie is very powerful. The Diamond Core is even more. Without waiting for Ji Dong to speak, Fury smiled and said, Bauer, do you know about Ji Dong's background? Lon Bauer was stunned. She said, Isn't he an orphan? She was also an extremely intelligent person. After hearing Fury's question, she vaguely understood something. Chapter 256. Isn't Ji Dong an orphan? Lon Bauer asked instinctively when she heard Fury's question. Fury shook his head and said, He used to be, but he's not leaving anymore. Speaking of which, the Diamond Core is just a servant of Ji Dong's family. Ji Yeshang is Ji Dong's blood brother from a different mother. The current king of equality is Ji Dong's biological grandfather. The Diamond Core is just a subordinate of the king of equality. You don't have to worry so much. Lon Bauer listened to Fury's words with her mouth agape. Ji Dong is the king of equality's grandson? This. Fury chuckled and said, Stop that. You haven't eaten yet, right? Let's sit down. There's plenty of space anyway. All right. Lon Bauer wiped her tears away and sat down right away. She sat next to Ji Dong. Ji Dong turned to look at her. When their eyes met, they couldn't help but look away. With Lon Bauer's participation, the originally carefree atmosphere of eating and drinking changed a little. Fury, Bing, and Zhu Yan were fine, but Ji Dong was a little uncomfortable. Bing looked at Ji Dong, then at Lon Bauer. He couldn't help but smile knowingly. Although he was a straightforward person, his thoughts were very meticulous. He could naturally tell that something was wrong between the two of them. When he thought of the 2 girls that Ji Dong had brought with him the last time, he couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. He thought to himself, even heroes have a weakness for the charms of beauties. Ji Dong, when did you come back? After eating and drinking for a while, Lon Bauer finally calmed down a little. She asked Ji Dong, who was beside her. I just came back yesterday, Ji Dong answered mechanically. It would be a lie to say that he didn't have any feelings for Lon Bauer. After all, they had helped each other during the first test, and then looked after each other for 10 days on the holy evil battlefield. Lon Bauer's gentleness was something he would never forget. However, he already had the flaming bar in his heart. How could there be room for anyone else? He didn't want to hurt Bauer, so he had always kept a distance from her. Lon Bauer bit her lower lip as she looked at Ji Dong, who was sitting upright and still. Although she knew that this man would not belong to her when she first saw the flaming bar, she could never forget the scene when Ji Dong saved her during the preliminary examination. Even though Ji Dong became stronger and stronger after that, and even displayed his prowess in the holy and evil battlefield, Lon Bauer still had the deepest impression of him as a cold, arrogant, and violent young man facing a strong opponent. A woman would never forget her first man. Although nothing had happened between Ji Dong and Lon Bauer, he was the first man who had entered her heart. Lon Bauer had tried to give up and divert her attention, such as Lang Tianyi. However, just like how a beautiful jade was afraid of comparison, when she forced herself to accept those suitors, she would only compare herself with Ji Dong in her heart, and then she would subconsciously give up. Every time she saw Ji Dong again, Lon Bauer would discover that the resistance in her heart would become even weaker. Previously, when she and Lang Tianyi came here, the moment they sat down, her gaze was attracted by Ji Dong's back. For years had passed, and Ji Dong had become even taller. Just by looking at his back, Lon Bauer should not have been able to recognize him, but she seemed to have a telepathic connection with him and still recognized him. Her gaze became sluggish, especially when she saw Fury. She was even more certain of her guess. It was also because of this moment of sluggishness that she did not have the time to stop Lang Tianyi from slamming the table and cursing loudly. "Oh, that's right. Little Junior, I remember that there were 2 girls with you previously. Were they?" Fury looked at Lon Bauer and Ji Dong and could not help but sigh in his heart. He knew Ji Dong's personality very well, and he decided to help Ji Dong. Hearing Fury's question, Ji Dong immediately understood what he meant. He smiled and said, "They still have some matters to attend to, so they'll leave first." Fury chuckled and said, "You little brat, are you trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone?" He was not joking with this sentence, but he was testing Ji Dong and Lon Bauer. If Ji Dong was really killing 2 birds with 1 stone, then it proved that he could possibly kill 3 birds with 1 stone. If Lon Bauer did not mind, they might really be together. It could be said that there was a double meaning in his words. Ji Dong hurriedly shook his head and said, "Senior, don't talk nonsense. The one in the golden armor is my girlfriend's friend, and the one in the long dress is my girlfriend. Her name is Flaming Bar. If there's a chance in the future, I'll introduce her to you." "Oh, that's right. You saw her at the party last time. At that time, she danced with me," Fury said in surprise. "The girl that made you so angry for her. I still remember the way you 2 danced. She was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Junior brother, your luck is really not ordinary," Fury said in surprise. "That's the girl that made you so angry for her." Looking at the look in Ji Dong's eyes, Fury understood that Lon Bauer did not stand a chance. "Bauer, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You should forget about this little Junior." As expected, listening to the conversation between the 2 brothers, Lon Bauer's face became paler and paler. Her gaze that was originally on Ji Dong turned back to herself, and she slowly lowered her head. Ji Dong said, "In my heart, Flaming Bar is more important than my life. I have never regretted killing Ji Feng back then, even after I found out that he was my cousin. In this life, there can only be one woman, Flaming Bar. She is the goddess in my heart. Other than her, there is no one else in my heart." Silence. Fury and Hyoheim kept signaling each other with their eyes, but Ji Dong still said everything. As the saying goes, it is better to get the pain over with than to prolong it. "Bauer, you are a good girl, but I really can't be with you, and I don't want to hurt you." Tears finally rolled down her cheeks. Lon Bauer did not look at Ji Dong again. She suppressed the emotion of crying and stood up slowly. She bowed slightly to Fury, Bing, and Zhu Yan. She said, "Senior brothers, Master Zhu Yan, I'm not feeling well. I'll take my leave first." After saying that, she did not wait for the others to speak and turned to run. Before she reached the door, she was already sobbing uncontrollably. The sorrowful sobs made Fury frown. "Little Junior, you are too cruel. Bauer is a good girl. Why do you have to hurt her heart like this? You could have been more tactful." Ji Dong laughed bitterly and said, "Senior, how can I not see Bauer's feelings? But what I said just now was the truth. In my heart, there is only the Flaming Bar. I can't repay Bauer's feelings in any way. Why don't I just give up on her? That would be better for her. It is better to get the pain over with than to prolong it. Let's not talk about this. Let's drink." As he said that, he grabbed the wine glass in front of him and poured the remaining half of the wine into his stomach. He felt guilty, but he could not repay Bao with his feelings. Jidong thought to himself, Bao when we reach the holy evil battlefield, I will definitely protect you. Consider it my repayment for your feelings. At this moment, dense and orderly footsteps came from outside. The loud rumbling was accompanied by the clanging of metal, and it once again disrupted Jidong and the others' drinking mood. Fury said, What will come has come. Lang Tianyi, that brat, really doesn't know his place. At this moment, Jidong was in a bad mood. He stood up slowly and said, Senior, big brother Abing, big brother, continue drinking. I will go out and take a look. As he said that, he stood up. Just as he was about to go out to take a look, the door of the flaming bar was pushed open. 3 people walked in, or rather, 2 people walked in and carried 1 person. Among the 2 people who walked in, Jidong recognized one of them. One of them was one of the commanders of the Diamond Corps. Back then, he had led the Diamond Corps to help him escort the forest demons across the border between the Eastern Wood Empire and the Central Plains Empire to settle down in the Earth Spirit Mountain Range. The person beside Wolf was tall and burly, similar to Fury. He had a ferocious appearance and an evil aura. His entire body gave off an explosive aura. Sensing this person's aura, Jidong could not help but shiver. This person was even more dangerous than Tian Xie, whom he had fought against previously. If the Extermination Legion's commander, Chun Longzhua, was said to have a murderous aura, then this person's aura was that of iron and blood. Wolf was already an extremely powerful and outstanding soldier, but standing beside Yi Futian, he seemed like a subordinate. And in this person's hand was Lang Tianyi. Seeing Jidong, Wolf quickly whispered something into the middle-aged man's ear. The middle-aged man nodded and took a step forward. He was already 5 meters away from Jidong. The mana in Jidong's body was immediately mobilized. Fury, Abing, and Zhu Yin, who were behind him, also stood up. They could all see how dangerous this man was. But who knew that after this man took a step forward, his next action was a thud. He knelt on the ground. More accurately, he knelt together with Lang Tianyi in front of Jidong. Greetings, young master. Lang Tianyi has not taught me well. I have specially come to apologize. Lang Tianyi? No wonder. When Jidong heard this name, he was instantly relieved. No wonder this person had such an imposing aura. He was actually the commander of the Diamond Corps, Lang Tianyi. Perhaps his mana level was not as high as Shi Luo and Wofo, who were at the peak of the 8 champions. But if they were on the battlefield, Jidong was sure that Shi Luo and Wofo would not be his match. Lang Tianyi's aura was similar to Chen Longao's, and the pressure that Lang Tianyi gave off was even stronger than Shui Mingyue and Lung Fengyan. This was not just in terms of strength, but also in terms of spirit. After obtaining the soul fire, Jidong's senses were much sharper than before. As he said that, Lang Tianyi put Lang Tianyi down. Lang Tianyi's face was pale, his expression extremely weary. He knelt there, his eyes filled with fear, but the hatred had already disappeared. General Lang Tianyi, please rise. The matter has already passed. When Hao Dong saw Lang Tianyi, he knew that Lang Tianyi already knew his identity. After all, he and Fury had just returned from the heavenly green plains, where the 2 guilds had battled. Lang Tianyi must have gone back to look for reinforcements. The moment he said Fury's name, Lang Tianyi and Lang Tianyi immediately knew who he was. Lang Tianyi did not get up, his voice deep and powerful as he said, Young master, my unfilial son has offended you and should have been executed. However, I only have this one son, so please spare his life. I've already broken his other arm, and if young master still feels that this is not enough, Lang Tianyi is willing to take the punishment for my son. No, Dad, it's all my fault. How can I let you take the punishment for me? Lang Tianyi was, after all, not an idiot. Although he was proud, his pride came from his father and the Diamond Corps, as well as his own talent. Now that both his arms were broken, his body and mind were heavily injured, he no longer had his previous arrogance. Regret was useless, and the only thing he wanted to do now was not to implicate his father. With his broken arms, he could not support himself on the ground, but he still kowtowed 3 times towards Ji Dong. Ji Dong stood there, without moving, allowing Lang Tianyi to return the 3 kowtows to him. He then took a step forward and helped Lang Tianyi up. General Lang Xie, I've already dealt with everything that happened. Although Lang Tianyi was in the wrong, losing an arm is enough punishment. For the sake of the general, just treat it as if nothing happened. Lang Xie was overjoyed, and he was about to kneel again, but Ji Dong grabbed his shoulders. Both of them did not use any devilish qi, but Lang Xie was shocked to discover that in terms of pure physical strength, this young lord actually surpassed him. He had seen the battle from afar, and without question, this young lord was the true successor of the prince-equivalent bloodline. If Ji Yesang had injured Lang Tianyi today, Lang Xie might not have come for revenge, but he definitely would not have brought Lang Tianyi here to apologize, because Ji Yesang had already been adopted by the imperial family. But Ji Dong was different. He could be said to be the only successor of the prince-equivalent bloodline. Although Lang Xie had many flaws, he was absolutely loyal to the prince-equivalent bloodline. Otherwise, how could Ji Yunsheng be at ease handing over the diamond core to him? It must be known that after Ji Dong's father died, Ji Yunsheng had treated Lang Xie as his own son, and in the prince-equivalent bloodline, his status was extremely high. Unfilial son, hurry up and thank the young lord. Lang Xie angrily rebuked Lang Tianyi. Lang Tianyi felt a bitter taste in his mouth. I lost 2 arms, and I still have to thank him? What do you mean by just treat it as if nothing happened? I'm already crippled, and I'm afraid I won't be able to advance any further in the future. Even if I want to retain my original devilish qi, it will be extremely difficult. Although his heart was filled with pain, he had no choice but to thank Ji Dong. Just as he was about to speak, Ji Dong pulled him up, and with a flick of his wrist, a small green gourd appeared in his palm. Opening the stopper, an extremely dense life qi spread out, filling every nook and cranny of the incense stick. Even breathing it in would cause one's body to feel extremely comfortable. Lang Tianyi, open your mouth, Ji Dong lightly said. Lang Tianyi was dumbfounded, as were Lang Xie and Lang Ye. What was this? Chapter 257. Ji Dong pulled up Lang Tianyi's broken arms and took out a small green gourd. The moment he opened the stopper, everyone could feel that it was definitely not poison. Although Lang Tianyi heard Ji Dong's words, he was still stunned. Ji Dong did not rush him any further, directly raising his left hand and grabbing his lower jaw, forcing his mouth open. The small green gourd shook slightly, and a drop of jade-like green liquid floated out, landing in Lang Tianyi's mouth. After that, Ji Dong quickly closed the stopper again and did not release that thick life qi. Lang Tianyi only felt a cool and refreshing feeling flow down his throat, instantly spreading to every corner of his body. An unimaginable amount of life qi burst forth from his meridians, bones, and organs, and the suffocating pain in his arms actually disappeared miraculously as a huge amount of life qi flowed through his meridians. Ji Dong looked at the dumbfounded Lang Xie and said, "General, bring him back and immediately connect his bones. Within a month, he will definitely recover to his original state. Even if the pain he suffered earlier was a punishment for scolding others, it is not enough to ruin a genius like him. I hope that when you go back, you can teach him well." If he did not say that he was from the Diamond Army, I'm afraid. Lang Xie had already reacted by this point, but he did not know what to say. He did not know what that drop of jade-like liquid was, but how could he not feel the changes in his son's body? Young Lord repaid evil with kindness. Lang Xie does not know what to say. In any case, if young Lord has any instructions in the future, the Diamond Army will definitely give it our all and follow you through life and death. After saying that, Lang Xie did not say anything else. He picked up his son and left with Lang Ye, because he could clearly feel that the life qi in Lang Tianyi's body had expanded to a terrifying degree. He needed to immediately find a quiet room to connect his arms. Perhaps this time it would be a blessing in disguise. Watching Lang Xie and the other 2 leave, a faint smile appeared on Ji Dong's face. He had always been a loner, and saving Lang Tianyi was naturally not to win over the hearts of the Diamond Army, but because of Lang Xie. He could clearly see the sorrow in Lang Xie's eyes. In addition, Lang Tianyi could be considered a genius in the province, having broken through to the Six Crowns realm at the age of 20, comparable to Fury at the same age. It was just that he had too little experience. Considering from every angle, Ji Dong could not let him be crippled like this. Never underestimate that drop of life spring. It was not the same as the one that Ji Dong had given to Cannon Dragon. Before leaving the Forest Demons, Tom had given Ji Dong 10 bottles of life spring. All of them were the essence of life, nurtured for 1,000 years, and each drop was even more potent than the original bottle. It was not an exaggeration to say that Lang Tianyi had gained a blessing in disguise. This drop of life spring could not only restore his arms to their original state, it could also cleanse his body of impurities, making his future even brighter. At this moment, a hand stretched out from beside Ji Dong and said, "Brother, break my arm as well, and then give me a drop of that life spring. It's really worth it. Hee hee hee." Needless to say, this wretched voice clearly came from Zhu Yin. Zhu Yin greedily drooled as he looked at the small gourd in Ji Dong's hand. Fury laughed and said, "Little junior brother, hurry up and put it away, or else I will covet it." What they did not expect was that Ji Dong did not hesitate at all and handed the gourd in his hand to Zhu Yin. Zhu Yin was stunned for a moment. The greed and wretchedness on his face disappeared, and he said in surprise, "Brother, I was just joking with you. What are you doing? If I'm not wrong, this is not an ordinary life spring, right? The value of this thing can be said to be immeasurable." Ji Dong replied with a question, "Big brother, can the relationship between us brothers be measured with money?" "You're right. This is a 1,000-year life spring. I was going to give this bottle to you anyway. Although I used a drop, there are still dozens of drops left. If you take a drop every year from now on, I guarantee that you will regain your youth in less than 3 years." Zhu Yin was startled and quickly handed the small gourd back to Ji Dong. "Brother, you can't accept this. This thing is too precious, and I can't accept it. This is a treasure that can save your life, so quickly put it away." Ji Dong shook his head and said, "Big brother, do you still remember? When we first met, we made an agreement that I would help you forge, and you would forge a set of magical weapons for me. However, after so many years, I still haven't fulfilled my promise. I still clearly remember the scene when you helped me forge the Devil Monarch Yin Yang armor. You dedicated your entire life to forging magical weapons. Your talent is definitely not inferior to masters. If you were willing to put your energy into cultivation, then it is very likely that you would also become a Supreme Being expert. However, you gave up just like that. Every time you focus on forging, you have to expend a lot of energy. You are younger than Master, Master's wife, and Grandmaster, but the condition of your body is the worst. You already have 1 foot in the grave, like a lamp that has run out of oil. If this goes on, I'm afraid that in less than 20 years, you will leave this world. Although this bottle of Source of Life is precious, compared to my elder brother's life, what is it worth? I have never mentioned giving you the armor and the twin radiance of sun and moon gloves as compensation, have I? Because that is a gift from my big brother, and as a brother, I have no qualms accepting it. Similarly, this is a gift from me to you, and it is only right for you to accept something from a brother to my big brother. Don't worry, I still have more here. I hope that this bottle of life spring can not only help my big brother prolong his life, but also stimulate his potential to break through the 9 crowns and increase his lifespan to more than 200 years. The second brother of Zhu Yin had always looked like a madman, playing games, but at this moment, holding the small gourd in his hand, he no longer looked the slightest bit crazy. He never thought that Ji Dong would actually give him this bottle of treasure that could not be measured with money, and without the slightest hesitation, let alone allowing him to refuse. Ji Dong chuckled and said, "Big brother, you don't have to be so touched, right? You shouldn't think like that. If I help you increase your life force, won't you be able to forge a better armor for me? I'm doing this for my own good. The Devil Lord Yin Yang armor is here." As he spoke, he took out the ring that Shi Luo gave him from the vermilion bird bracelet. A golden red light surged, and the fusion divine technique separated the Devil Lord Yin Yang armor and integrated it into the ring. Good, brother, big brother, doesn't need to say anything, I'll accept it. Zhu Yin carefully put away the small green gourd and the storage ring. He didn't know that in this ring, there was not only the Devil Lord Yin Yang armor, but also dozens of precious crystal cores and crystal crowns. These were all gifts that Shi Luo gave to Jidong. At this time, Jidong gave it to Zhu Yin, thinking that he knew that Zhu Yin needed these things the most to forge his armor. Jidong turned around, came in front of Fury, and said, "Senior brother, today's wine is almost finished. I have to go. 10 days before the holy and evil passage opens, it will be the day we brothers reunite. Please accept this bottle of life spring. After all, I once studied at the Heavenly STEM Academy. This bottle of life spring is not only for you, but also for our companions. With it, on the holy and evil battlefield, we can give every companion of the Yin Yang school an extra life." As he spoke, Jidong took out the second small green gourd and stuffed it into Fury's hand. "Little junior brother, you..." Fury couldn't refuse Jidong's words. From the rich life aura that the source of life emitted, he knew that what Jidong said was right. With the existence of this bottle of the 10 great ancient wines, it was enough to give the disciples of the Yin Yang school an extra life. This was too important in the battle between the holy and evil battlefield. "Big brother Cannon Dragon, thank you for your hospitality. I'll take my leave now." Under the gazes of Ah Bing, Fury, and Zhu Yin, Jidong exhaled a mouthful of incense. At this moment, the sky had already turned dark, and night gradually descended on the Central Plain city. Jidong took a deep breath and felt a sense of comfort in his body and mind. The matter here was finally settled, and he could finally travel with the flaming bar. His grandmaster and mistress did not ask about the flaming bar, which made Jidong the happiest. Giving away 2 bottles of the source of life could be considered as temporarily fulfilling his wish here, and he could also repay Zhu Yin. Strolling to a dark corner of the street, he called out to the flaming bar and left the Central Plains city once again. 10 days later, the Central Plains Empire. The sun shone brightly, making the air a little hotter. It was already early autumn, but the temperature in the Central Plains Empire was still a little high. As expected of the continent's most powerful nation, on both sides of the road, which was wide enough for 10 carriages to travel side by side, there was a towering tree every 10 meters or so. The dense canopy of the tree stretched far into the distance, and the dense foliage blocked most of the sunlight, turning this road into a real avenue with trees. Jidong held the flaming bar's hand, and Ah Jin followed behind them. The 3 of them traveled leisurely on the boulevard. The flaming bar was wearing an inconspicuous gray dress, but even so, her perfect figure and the aura she exuded would still attract the attention of passers-by. She also wore a veil and a bamboo hat to cover her face. The current flaming bar was like a superstar in Jidong's previous life. She had to cover herself up before she could go to the outside world. Ah Jin's attire was similar to the flaming bar's, but she was wearing a light yellow dress and a bamboo hat. In this early summer that was still a little hot, anyone who stood close to Ah Jin would definitely feel the effect of an air conditioner. Of course, the prerequisite was that one had to be able to withstand the indistinct, murderous intent in the cold. It was an aura that could make one's pores shrink and tremble. This was something Ah Jin could not change no matter what. He had no choice but to set foot on the mainland again after 10 days. After participating in the battle between the 2 major guilds and witnessing the fight between the Supremes with his own eyes, Jidong had gained some enlightenment. After returning to the core world, he wanted to bring the flaming bar back to the mainland immediately to continue his journey. However, under the request of the flaming bar, he went into seclusion for another 10 days to gradually digest the enlightenment he had gained. His mana finally broke through again and reached level 62. More importantly, Jidong understood his 5th 5 elements formation in these 10 days. This time, they set off from the Central Plains city and headed all the way north towards the Northwater Empire. The Central Plain city was located in the center of the mainland. Although it was not too far from the Northwater Empire, it was not near either. Based on their walking speed, it would definitely take them at least a month to reach there. Meanwhile, Ji-dong and the Flaming Bar were not in a hurry at all. They were originally going to play and relax on the mainland. They would stop at places with good scenery for a longer period of time. They would walk past places with mediocre scenery. Every time they passed by a city, they would stop and rest. They tasted different wines and delicacies from different regions. For some reason, when Ji-dong returned to the Earth's core and saw the Flaming Bar again, the Flaming Bar was much gentler to him than before. Sometimes, when he was happy, he would even take the initiative to lean into Ji-dong's arms and let him hug him. To Ji-dong, this was more exciting than obtaining a divine weapon. Naturally, he took care of the Flaming Bar in every possible way. As for Jin, he was practically invisible to him. Unfortunately, throughout the journey, the Flaming Bar did not let him sleep in the same bed at night. Even so, Ji-dong was already extremely satisfied. He could clearly feel that the relationship between him and the Flaming Bar was warming up day by day. The Flaming Bar had also become more and more humanized. The majesty that belonged to the queen of the Earth's core world was becoming less and less. Instead, the various emotional changes that a young lady should have were becoming more and more frequent. This journey took them a total of 40 days before they entered the territory of the Northwater Empire. Their destination this time was the capital of the Northwater Empire, Tianshui City. It was located in the northwest of the Northwater Empire. At their current speed, they would need another 10 days to reach there. After entering the Northwater Empire, the first change that they felt was the temperature. Although a month had passed, they had just entered Chiotian. However, the temperature in the Northwater Empire was much lower than that of the Middle Empire. Ordinary people had to wear thick coats to keep out the cold. Of course, it did not affect Ji-dong and the other two at all. The plants on the roadside gradually changed from temperate to frigid. Most of the trees were made of needles. They had just entered the Northwater Empire. Another discovery that Ji-dong had was that the concentration of water element in the Northwater Empire was obviously the strongest among all the places he had been to. It was even denser than the water element at the seaside. This was the characteristic of the region. In the midst of the water element, Ji-dong could clearly feel that his mana would be forced to decrease a little. It should be known that even he, who possessed ultimate mana, could feel it. If it were an ordinary magician, the feeling would definitely be stronger. This was also why magicians of different attributes would be in different countries. Relatively speaking, the Middle Empire was the least oppressive place. After all, there was a saying that everything was born in the soil. This should be one of the reasons why the Middle Empire was so powerful. Chapter 258. The Southern Fire Empire and the Northwater Empire are the most wine-loving countries. Of course, I also bought some whiskey and brandy along the way and made some magic wine. But I couldn't make any magic wine that was of the sure kill level. Maybe it's because of the alcohol content. I hope I can find something suitable in the Northwater Empire. Ji-dong said subconsciously as he felt the strong water element in the air and the cold temperature. The Flaming Bar held Ji-dong's arm and asked curiously, "Why do you think that the Northwater Empire has those two kinds of high-alcohol wines and not the Southern Fire Empire where you come from? I remember you said that the people of the Southern Fire Empire love wine the most, and their passion for wine is even greater than the people of the Northwater Empire." Ji-dong laughed, feeling the soft body of the Flaming Bar leaning on him. He felt indescribably comfortable in his heart. He said, "It's a geographical problem. The Northwater Empire is located in the northernmost part of the continent, and the temperature is extremely low. One of the reasons why northerners like to drink is to keep out the cold, and low-alcohol wines can't do that. Therefore, whether it's pure wine or cocktails, northerners prefer high-alcohol wines." The Flaming Bar suddenly understood and said, "So that's how it is. It seems that there are many mysteries in the wine culture. No wonder you couldn't explain it. Even if the winemaking method and ingredients are the same, the wine made will be absolutely different." Ji-dong nodded and said, "Geographical, climate, even the air, gravity that we can't see, all these factors will affect the winemaking. Therefore, The wine made in one place will not be the same as the other. This is also the charm of wine. The flaming bar smiled and said, Ji-dong, let's go straight to Sky Water City. I've been really happy along the way, but I can't be too selfish. The second battle between saint and evil is getting closer and closer. We'll go to the bartender's bar in Sky Water City first, and then I hope that you can go into seclusion again. You still need to cultivate your divine art of fusion further. So you must completely fuse the scorching and flaming swords into your body before the battle between saint and evil begins. The divine art of fusion, along with your new understanding of the 5 elements formation, will be much more effective. The potential of the scorching and flaming swords is limitless, and after fusing with them, your ability to protect yourself will be greatly improved. As long as you don't meet a saint with the protection of the core of life, you will be safe. Ji-dong looked at the flaming bar in a daze. The veil on his bamboo hat couldn't block his gaze at all. He said, but I hope to continue walking like this with you, flaming bar. Do you know that these past 40 days have been the happiest 40 days of my life? I really want to end it here. How great would it be if we could go on like this forever? The flaming bar gently shook his head and said, if 2 people love each other for a long time, why would they stay together day and night? We still have a lot of time in the future. Have you forgotten what you promised me? You have to become stronger as soon as possible so that you can better protect me. Only by entering the saint realm will your lifespan increase, and entering the God realm will you be able to live as long as the heavens and the earth. That is the direction that you should be working hard to pursue. Only then did Ji-dong nod and say, all right, I'll listen to you. For the sake of our future, I will definitely master the divine art of fusion as soon as possible. Flaming bar, I've discovered that as the degree to which I can fuse the scorching and flaming swords increases, the weight of the 2 swords gradually becomes less and less of an influence on me. When I can completely fuse them, even without the help of Mao Dai and Wu Yangye, I should be able to control them. That piece of jade of heaven, do you think I should fuse it into the 2 swords or absorb it myself? The flaming bar said, it's better for you to absorb it yourself. The strengthening of the fire of the soul is the most important. Once you fuse the 2 swords with your newly comprehended formation, the scorching and flaming sword will be affected by the energy in your body. If you fuse the jade of heaven into the 2 swords, it might be able to strengthen them in a short period of time, but in the long run, it won't be that beneficial. After all, the 2 swords need a lot of jade of heaven. That small piece is like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Ji-dong said, all right, I'll listen to you. When the trip to Celestial Water City is over, I'll first fuse the jade of heaven into my body. In fact, you don't need to worry about the battle between the holy and evil. I still have the super killing skill scroll I got from the Magic Skill Guild. With the magic skill wine and my own ability, even if the other side has a 9-crown warrior or a class 10 magical beast, I'll be able to escape unscathed. I won't enter the 5th floor of the Holy Evil Island. The flaming bar smiled. I hope so. Let's go, release the Mao Tai and Wu Yangye. We'll ride them to Celestial Water City. We'll arrive in a few hours. With a joyful dragon roar, the flame dragon drilled out of the core of life. Every time it drilled out of Ji-dong's chest, it wasn't just shocking, it was also a bit funny. It was as if Ji-dong had birthed them from his chest. In less than 2 months, the flame dragon had been living in the core of life. The core of life was the source of life that had been nurtured for tens of thousands of years. It had turned from a liquid to a solid. Therefore, it was the true treasure of the forest goblins. It could also be said to be a divine artifact of the forest goblins. Ji-dong himself didn't know about this. He only felt that ever since he had fused the core of life into his body seemed to have been subtly changing. Originally, he had already fused the vermilion bird transformation, the winged serpent transformation, and the dragon blood after cultivating the soul fire. After this period of time, the fusion had not only become more perfect, but his body was also filled with a terrifying life aura. Ji-dong even had a feeling that his life would not continue to flow away with time, and he would forever remain at the age of 20. What made him even more pleasantly surprised was that after Ji-dong fused the core of life into his body, the flame of chaos, which had been improving at an extremely slow rate during cultivation, would actually improve a little every day. Although the speed of improvement was extremely minute, he could clearly feel it. It was obvious that the flame of chaos was improving much faster than before. The flaming bar told Jidong that this was entirely the effect of the core of life. The mystery of chaos lay in creation, and life itself was the purest form of creation. The two complemented each other, just like the combination of the 5 elements. If the mana weapons that Jidong had fused into his body were calcined and nourished by the soul fire, then his flame of chaos, and even the source of mana, were all nourished by the core of life. The great derivative fire dragon had lived in the core of life for close to 2 months, and its already huge body had grown even bigger. It was now 13 meters long, and it was even more muscular. Every part of its body was shining. As soon as it came out of the core of life, a terrifying pressure instantly bloomed. Even Ajin, who had extreme magic power, couldn't help but take a step back. Jidong grabbed the flaming bar's hand and leaped up, landing on the back of the flame dragon. He turned around and called out to Ajin, "Come on up." Ajin frowned and was about to say something, but she saw the flaming bar nodding at her. Then, she leaped up and landed on the waist of the flame dragon, putting some distance between Jidong and the flaming bar, who was on the dragon's neck. Over the past month, she rarely spoke with Jidong and the flaming bar. Although she wasn't wearing the golden armor, the coldness on her body never subsided. Jidong discovered not long ago that when he was in seclusion, he didn't know what the flaming bar did, but he actually helped Ajin obtain the origin of chaos. Although she hadn't formed the chaotic gold yet, when he sensed the magic waves on her body again, he clearly felt a sense of familiarity. However, she seemed to be like an eternal iceberg and didn't say a word to Jidong. Ever since the story of the spear and the buttocks happened when Jidong and Ajin fought as one, he always felt that he owed her, so he was naturally more polite to Ajin. The colleagues of Mao Tai and Wu Yangye let out a cheerful dragon roar and leaped up. In the blink of an eye, they had already disappeared into the clouds. In the sky, large patches of clouds surrounded them. Dragons followed clouds, and tigers followed winds. Naturally, the giant dragons in this world wouldn't appear, but there was no exception for a Huaxia divine dragon like the flame dragon. The clouds became the best camouflage for the flame dragon. From below, it was impossible to discover his existence. Jidong reminded Mao Tai and Wu Yangye to fly more steadily and pointed them in the direction according to the map. Only then did he sit behind the flaming bar. He wanted to put his arm around the flaming bar's slender waist, but the flaming bar grabbed his hands and failed. Although the two of them were getting closer and closer, the flaming bar had never been overly intimate with Jidong. Jidong wasn't in a hurry. As long as the flaming bar could feel his love, he would be very satisfied. Ajin, come to the front. The flaming bar turned around at the flame dragon's neck, and Jidong hurriedly reached out to hold her, lest she fall. In fact, the flame dragon's body was extremely huge, and its back was like a platform. When it flew, it would have a layer of magic power to protect its body. Sitting on it, she wouldn't feel any wind at all. Jidong was just too concerned. The flaming bar sat sideways on the flame dragon's back and waved at Ajin. Ajin stood up, stepped on the scales of the flame dragon, and walked over. He stopped 1 meter behind Jidong. The flaming bar took Jidong's hand with one hand and said to the two of them, "Jidong, Ajin, I have an idea. Now that Mao Tai and Wu Yangye still have some time to fly to Tinshui City, I can let you try it." Me and him? Ajin was a little puzzled and even pointed at herself uneasily, and then at Jidong. The flaming bar smiled and nodded. While she was in the air, she had already taken off the bamboo hat on her head, revealing her perfect face. Jidong also looked at the flaming bar in confusion, waiting for her to continue. The flaming bar said, "Both of you possess extreme magic power, and Jidong cultivates both yin and yang. However, your magic power is only at the 6th level, and there is still a gap between you and a true powerhouse. If you can cooperate with each other, your combat power will greatly increase." In terms of actual combat experience, Jidong You're not as good as Ajin. Although you are also very decisive and full of explosive power in battle, you lack Ajin's precision. This is something you must learn from Ajin. With your control of the soul fire, it shouldn't be difficult to master. Among the 5 elements, although fire restrains metal, the 5 elements' mutual promotion and restraint is actually only a line apart. Sometimes, it is not absolute. Master, are you saying that the fire element can cooperate with the metal element? That's impossible. I hate the aura of the fire element the most, Jean said in confusion. She glanced at Ji Dong, then quickly looked away. The flaming bar smiled and gestured to Ah Jean, indicating for her to calm down. She said, I have carefully considered the combination of the fire and metal elements, and I found that it is not impossible. Ah Jean, you possess the extreme metal magic power, which is also the extreme metal magic power. What you are best at is turning magical power into metal, changing it into a myriad of forms, and using the metal element's unique sharpness and penetrative power as your fighting style. Then, let me ask you, if you wanted to use a metal spear to pierce through a hard object, would it be more effective to pierce it directly, or would it be more effective to burn the spear red? Ajin was stunned for a moment, then said, that depends on what the target is. If it's a hard rock, perhaps it would be better to pierce it directly, because when metal is heated red, its hardness will decrease. If the target is wood or metal, then it should be better to burn it red. Fire restrains wood and metal. The flaming bar nodded and said, that's right. Therefore, as long as you add the fire element to your extreme metal magic power, then when you attack an enemy, it will easily produce the effect of both metal and fire elements. Fire restrains metal, but fire and metal are the most offensive among the 5 elements. The fire element is stronger in explosiveness and adhesion, while the metal element is better in penetrative power and changes. Although you only have the extreme metal magic power, if you combine the two, your fighting strength will definitely increase by several times. Ji Dong had been listening carefully to Raging Flame's words. Only now did he open his mouth and say, Raging Flame, if I hide the fire attribute within the metal attribute, when her metal attribute completes its penetrating effect, in the next moment, my fire attribute will release the explosive power of the Yang fire, or the attachment and corrosion of the Yin fire. This should be considered a combination skill. Hide? The flaming bar's eyes suddenly lit up, and even Ajin was moved. The 2 words Jidong gave them a lot of inspiration, and they seemed to have seen the possibility of some combinations. Jidong said, this is what I'm thinking. If Ajin is attacking with the metal element on the outside, and my fire element on the inside, what kind of effect will there be? When the enemy is defending, they will first be confused. Chapter 259. Hearing Jidong's thoughts on the metal and fire dual attribute combination skill, Ajin frowned and said, how is that possible? Fire counters metal. If your fire element is wrapped around my metal element, then the first effect will be to affect my metal element. Unless you use normal fire mana instead of ultimate dual fire, then my metal element won't be affected much. But then what's the point? Jidong said, no, it's possible. I can make it so that my fire element won't affect your metal element. Although this isn't a true combination skill, it can still confuse your enemy. Once your opponent defends against a metal element attack, then the fire element hidden within your metal element will explode. If you catch him off guard, no matter what element he has, he will still be at a disadvantage. Let me give you a simple example. For example, you can use mana to create a metal ball and throw it at your opponent. I can condense my fire mana into a fireball and inject it into your metal ball. When your opponent breaks the metal ball, my fire affinity will explode like a bomb. Your mana and mine are about the same, so the explosive power produced under such circumstances will definitely be considerable. I know what the effect of the metal and fire dual attribute combination skill is. When he mentioned the word bomb, Jidong suddenly had a flash of inspiration. That's right. Why didn't I think of it before? What is it? Also, what's a bomb? The flaming bar master asked curiously. Jidong said, Jin, when your ultimate metal mana takes form, is it similar to real metal? Ajin nodded and said,
it's even stronger. Unless it's some extremely rare metal, in terms of toughness and destructive power, it's not as good as my mana, especially when I use ultimate mana. Ji Dong clapped his palms together and excitedly said, "That's right. Let's continue what I just said. Think about it. When your metal ball is destroyed, the fire mana I poured into it will suddenly explode. The sudden high heat and explosive power will cause your metal ball to explode. Your metal mana fragments will then mix with the explosive power of my fire mana. What kind of damage will that cause? Moreover, the fragments of the explosion will be contaminated by my fire-attributed mana and become scorching hot, making it even more destructive. Once it pierces a person's body, it will be the effect of ultimate in gold and my ultimate dual fire mana. My fireball can completely be of the ultimate dual fire attribute, because only under the effect of the ultimate dual fire fusion skill can it have the strongest explosive power, and its explosive effect can blow up your ultimate in gold mana." Hearing Ji Dong's words, Ajin and the flaming bar looked at him as if they were looking at a monster. The flaming bar even asked doubtfully, "Ji Dong, are you really a human? Even I didn't expect it to be like this. In theory, it's completely possible. Once it's done, it won't be a metal and fire combination skill, but a triple combination skill of ultimate in metal and ultimate dual fire mana. Just like you said, its destructive power will be extremely shocking, and more importantly, it's hidden." At this moment, Ji Dong's mind was filled with inspiration. As he thought, he said, "Yes, it's a triple combination skill. In order to complete this combination skill, I have to solve a few problems. First, when my ultimate dual fire fuses with Ajin's ultimate in metal mana, will it affect her ultimate in metal mana? The second problem was that after Ajin attacked her target, she had to immediately sever the connection between her and the part of her magical power that had launched the attack. That was because if my ultimate dual flames exploded, her magical power would be destroyed. If she still had any connection with me, she would be affected by my aura and might even be injured. As for the third problem, after Ajin severed the connection between her and the mana, how do I control the attack? If it's a short distance, I can use the instant when my ultimate dual fire explodes to control the attack. If it's a long distance, it'll be more troublesome. I can only rely on Ajin's inertia when she attacks. Yes, that's it. I don't even need the opponent to destroy the metal sphere. When this triple combination skill is activated completely depends on when I detonate my ultimate dual fire. That's great. The theoretical problem is basically solved. Ajin, let's give it a try." Ji Dong raised his head to look at Ajin, and just happened to see her look as if she was looking at a monster. He couldn't help but be stunned. "Ajin, why are you looking at me like that?" Ajin was a little speechless. "First of all, you have to tell me clearly how you can make it so that your fire element doesn't affect me. Secondly, I've never seen someone like you. It's only been a few minutes, and you've already thought of a way to release a combination skill. And it's a 3-element combination skill. The difference between being feasible in theory and actually being feasible is huge. Are you sure your method will be fine?" Ji Dong said. "How will you know if it'll work if you don't try it? Before I developed the magic wine, could you have thought of using fine wine and wine bottles to create an effect equivalent to that of a magic scroll? Miracles are created by humans. Furthermore, they are created through continuous practice. Practice is the only way to test the truth. How will you know if it won't work if you don't try? Even if there's a problem, we can try our best to solve it. As for the problem that you're worried about, just watch." As he spoke, Ji Dong raised his right hand, and his eyes flashed. Immediately, 2 flames, one black and one gold, rose from his palm at the same time. Then, the 2 flames began to entangle with each other, and finally merged into one, turning into a small fireball of gold and black. Gradually, the gold turned white, and it formed a ball in the shape of a yin-yang fish on Ji Dong's palm. At this moment, a strange scene appeared. Ajin could clearly feel that the small fireball in Ji Dong's hand did not produce any fluctuations of the fire element. It did not even have a single attribute. It was not one of the 10 basic attributes. Ji Dong said, "This can be considered a miracle. Actually, for me, this is not difficult. As long as the yin and yang fire elements I output are completely equal, and I used the control of my soul fire to fuse them together to achieve a subtle balance. The yin and yang fire elements will restrict each other, pulling each other's attributes to completely contain each other. The dual fire elements will not be emitted at all, and this way, the ultimate dual fire elements will not affect you. It is also very easy for me to detonate it. As long as I break the balance between the ultimate dual fire elements, their repulsive effects will immediately erupt, just like this. With a flick of Jidong's wrist, the small fireball the color of the yin and yang fish had already flown far away. With a loud bang, it forcibly blasted a hole in a large patch of clouds. The dense dual fire elements scattered in the air, causing the various attributes in the air to immediately become agitated. Jidong said to Jin seriously, "If there's a layer of your ultimate yin metal mana outside of my fireball, then the high heat produced when it explodes will produce an even stronger explosive force due to the pressure of the ultimate yin metal. During this process, your ultimate yin metal will be imbued with the attributes of my ultimate dual fire elements. Although it will only last for a very short period of time, it is enough for us because in this short period of time, it will be able to complete the corresponding attack. What we need to experiment now is how to fuse the ultimate dual fire elements with the ultimate yin metal in the most perfect way. In other words, what is the ratio of our respective mana output in order to produce the most powerful attack?" Serious and persistent men were often the most attractive to women. At this moment, Jidong was completely immersed in the research of this combination demonic technique. When inspiration came, he had completely forgotten about everything else. The flaming bar sat there and looked at him with a smile. She didn't say anything and let Jidong and Jin discuss the possibility of this triple attribute combination technique. Jidong's serious expression seemed to soften her heart even more. Jin was finally attracted by Jidong's theory. Looking at the confident light in Jidong's eyes, she finally nodded and said, "Then let's try it. What should we do?" Jidong said, "I think this combination technique must be done from the inside out. Only when you release the demonic technique to attack the enemy will the effect of the triple attribute combination technique be produced. Only then can it catch the enemy off guard and be released in the shortest time possible. Therefore, my idea is to inject my mana directly into your body and release it when you attack. Of course, the skill you use must be a long-range attack. Otherwise, we will be the first to die in the explosion." "You mean, you want to merge your mana with my mana in my body?" Jin's eyes widened. Jidong nodded seriously and said, "That's right. Come, let's have a combat test. Just like I said, release a metal ball and don't block my mana. I will control it well. Trust me." Jin took a deep breath. She asked herself in her heart, should she trust this man? Looking at Jidong, although she looked cold on the surface, there were extremely complicated emotions in the depths of her heart. Losing her memory did not mean that she had lost her intelligence, and she was not an emotionless killer. Ever since she drank the cocktail that Jidong made for the flaming bar, for some reason, every time she looked at this not-so-handsome man, she felt that he seemed more handsome. In particular, this man had extraordinary abilities. She still clearly remembered the powerful ability that Jidong displayed when he faced Qianlong Ao. He was able to perform a super ultimate skill. That was something she didn't even dare to imagine. Thousands of enemies who could perform a group combination technique were defeated by him. At the thought of that battle, Jin couldn't help blushing. She remembered the story of the gun and the buttocks more clearly than Jidong did. Especially when she saw her body's reaction at that time, she was extremely flustered. Even though she had lost her previous memories, she was sure that she had never been as weak as she was then. Her whole body was completely limp, and she even missed several times when facing the enemy. Her heart had always been in a mess, and she hadn't been able to completely calm down until now. She didn't talk to Jidong or even look at him. She was escaping. "All right." Jin finally nodded at Hyoheim. Jidong was overjoyed. He was really afraid that Jin wouldn't agree. He couldn't guess what Jin was thinking. He had always thought that Jin was prejudiced against him and hated him very much. He didn't expect that she would agree so readily. Fearing that she would regret it, Jidong turned around
and appeared behind Ajin. He pressed his hands on her shoulders at the same time. At the moment when Ji-dong came behind her, Ajin felt as if she had been hit by an electric current. Her whole body went limp. He was behind her again. Last time he was behind her. When Ji-dong's hands fell on her shoulders, Jin's body trembled violently. Although the other parts of Ji-dong's body did not touch her, her perky buttocks still clenched subconsciously, and all the muscles in her body became tense. Jin, are you okay? Relax. Don't resist my mana. Direct your mana out. I'll cooperate with you. Ji-dong's voice came from behind her. Jin hurriedly took a deep breath and bit the tip of her tongue. She used the tingling sensation from the tip of her tongue to barely stabilize her mind. However, she found that her heart was beating very fast. She kept asking herself in her heart, "What's wrong with me? Why is my mind so chaotic when he touches me?" Jin, stabilize your mind. The flaming bar's indifferent voice was like a bucket of ice water poured over her head. It freed Jin from her chaotic mind in an instant. She looked up at the flaming bar, and the flaming bar was also looking at her. She couldn't see any emotional changes in the flaming bar's calm and beautiful eyes, but Jin felt as if she had been completely seen through. The ultimate in gold mana was finally activated. Jin raised her right hand, and golden mana condensed in her palm. In the blink of an eye, it had turned into a ball the size of a fist. According to Ji-dong, it was hollow inside. It was also at this moment that a gentle mana turned into a warm current and flowed into her right shoulder. Jin felt a warmth in her right arm, and the next moment, there seemed to be something in the metal ball in her palm. There's a mountain in front. Throw it to the top of the mountain. Remember, immediately cut off the connection with mana after you throw it. Ji-dong's excited and nervous voice came from behind Jin. Jin nodded. He turned his body slightly and flung the metal ball away. With a thought, he cut off the connection between it and the magic power. Ji-dong retracted his hand from Jin's shoulder. There seemed to be black and white flames burning in his eyes. Jin could clearly feel that her origin of chaos, which had yet to turn into chaotic in gold, was pulsing violently. Ji-dong's body emitted a strong spiritual wave. Affected, her origin of chaos seemed to be stirring. Jin instinctively clenched her fists. Just like Ji-dong, she looked forward to success. Chapter 260. Thanks to Ji-dong's spiritual connection, the sacred evolution fire dragon hovered in midair and watched the direction of the metal ball. The metal ball had already reached the peak of the mountain, but Ji-dong did not trigger it. Such a strong collision was enough to cause the ultimate dual flames he had injected into the metal ball to lose balance. The metal ball landed accurately on a mountain peak. However, Ji-dong and Jin were disappointed. After the metal ball collided with the rocks on a mountain peak, it bounced off and did not explode like Ji-dong had expected. Could it have failed? No way. Ji-dong's eyes suddenly lit up. It was also at this moment that an unparalleled explosion suddenly rang out from below. Intense black and white flames exploded in midair and turned into a huge ball of fire in the shape of a yin-yang fish. The terrifying explosive force was much stronger than the ultimate dual flames that Ji-dong had casually tossed out. What was even more shocking was that within that ball of yin-yang fish fire, countless golden red rays of light scattered in all directions. The ear-piercing sound of something tearing through the air was even accompanied by countless screeches. One of the golden red rays of light bombarded the top of the mountain. Immediately, a series of explosions rang out one after another. Large areas of the mountain were bombarded with thousands of holes, and there were even further explosions. As the intense ultimate dual fire element in the air sank down, the mountaintop that was bombarded with thousands of holes was shaved off by a meter. Jin's eyes widened in shock. If it was said that she had agreed to Ji-dong's test because of her inexplicable emotions, then right now, she could not help but feel a strong sense of admiration for Ji-dong. Even though the metal ball had bounced off and did not explode as expected, one of the golden red rays of light had struck the mountain peak. However, he had actually managed to complete such a terrifying explosive force with a triple elemental combination skill. Feeling the effects of the explosion, Dong was not excited. He muttered, "The explosion was a little late. It looks like I have to trigger the ultimate dual flames myself. It takes time to blast apart Jin's ultimate metal and merge it with the metal element. This is also why the explosion was delayed earlier. However, the overall direction is correct. The explosive force of the fire element combined with the penetrating force of the metal element is indeed powerful. Unfortunately, Jean looked at Hyoheim in confusion. Unfortunately what? She did not understand why Dong was dissatisfied with such a successful experiment. Dong said, "Unfortunately, there is a limit to our control over mana. If it were a sure kill skill, I would not be able to guarantee that the ultimate dual flames would achieve a balance of yin and yang. Thus, although our triple elemental combination skill is very powerful, the foundation to release it is only a hit skill and a benchmark skill. I don't know when I will be able to control the sure kill skill, the ultimate dual flames, to achieve a state of yin and yang balance." He was not belittling himself. It should be known that once his ultimate dual flames were merged together, it would produce the effect of a beginner-level sure kill skill. He did not even have enough mana to support the release of a skill of this level, let alone control it. He had to rely on the sustaining matrix to achieve this. Naturally, it was even more impossible for him to release a triple elemental combination skill with Ajin. Flaming Bar clapped her hands lightly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with praise as she said, "You have done very well. I was just giving you a suggestion. I really did not expect that you would be able to comprehend it in such a short period of time. Once you successfully cultivate this triple elemental combination skill, you will no longer need to expend a lot of energy when facing a large number of enemies. The situation like when you encountered the Annihilation Army will not happen again. Both of you should also practice more so that you can work better together. You have the Soul Fire as the source of control, so you can completely fuse it with Ajin's ultimate dark metal skill in many forms. Try it again. In the next 4 hours, or so that the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon flew, Dong focused all his attention on studying the triple elemental combination skill. In this combination skill, Jin only needed to attack normally. As for how to achieve the effect of the combination skill, Dong had to control it and output the ultimate dual flames. As they tested out in the air, the two of them gradually became familiar with each other. The only thing that made Ajin a little uneasy was that this skill could only be completed when Dong was next to her body. The Skywater City was a deep and noble city, completely different from the vast and mediocre atmosphere of the Central Plains City. As far as the eye could see, almost all of the buildings here were mainly black and purple. The deep black and noble purple formed a unique landscape. This was not only the capital of the Northwater Empire, but also the most unique city of the Northwater Empire. It was the most unique city in the Northwater Empire that could display its characteristics. The area of Tinshui City was less than a third of the size of the Central Plains City, but it was no less prosperous than the Central Plains City. The gradually colder weather caused the people here to put on thick clothes. Compared to the Southern Fire Empire and the Central Plains Empire, the people of the Northwater Empire were generally tall and burly. They lacked the delicacy of the South, but had the boldness of the North. In particular, the dense waves of water elements in the air made this place even more lively. It could be imagined that in this northern country, the people who gathered the most should be water and wood element magic masters. Needless to say, the dense water elements were also beneficial to the cultivation of wood element magic masters. Water was wood. Dong accurately found the location of Tinshui City with the help of the map. Under the cover of the clouds, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon landed silently 5 kilometers away from Tinshui City. Only then did the three of them walk towards Tinshui City. As soon as they arrived at the city gate, they encountered a problem. For some unknown reason, Tinshui City was carefully inspecting people entering the city. There were more than 200 soldiers gathered at the city gate. There were even magic masters among the people in charge of the inspection. In order to inspect women, they even specially arranged a few female soldiers to be in charge of the inspection. It seems like something happened in Tinshui City. Jidong muttered. Ajin looked at the inspectors in front of them who were about to search the passers-by and said coldly, "I'll kill whoever dares to touch me." Jidong was indeed troubled, not to mention that Ajin was unwilling. He couldn't let those people touch Flaming Bar's body. After thinking for a while, he already had a plan. With a flip of his wrist, an item appeared in his palm. Then, he led Flaming Bar and Ajin towards the city gate. When they arrived at the city gate, two soldiers with a female soldier welcomed them. They said, "Please accept the inspection. Take out all your belongings and search your body. If you're hiding anything, don't blame us for being rude." With that, the two soldiers were about to search Jidong's body. Jidong snorted coldly and said, "Get out of the way." A condensed aura was suddenly released from his body. In the eyes of the two soldiers, in just a moment, this man in front of them seemed to have turned into a devil. They hurriedly retreated with horror in their eyes. "There's a spy." The female soldier even screamed. Instantly, the three of them attracted the attention of the soldiers at the city gate. These soldiers from the Northwater Empire reacted very quickly. In an instant, 10 soldiers raised their spears and blocked the city gate. More than 30 soldiers quickly rushed forward with their spears pointed forward, surrounding Jidong and the other two. "Take them down." One of the leaders of the soldiers shouted angrily, and the 30 soldiers immediately rushed forward with their spears in hand. Jidong snorted coldly and lightly stepped on the ground with his right foot. With a low, muffled sound, the ground shook violently. A circle of strong shock waves shook the soldiers, causing them to lose their balance and stagger back. It was impossible to take them down. Jidong said calmly, "We're not spies. Call the two devil masters over." Needless to say, the two devil masters who were sitting on the chairs at the city gate had already sprung up and walked quickly to the side. The magical wave that Jidong emitted had awakened them. The two of them immediately released their yin-yang crown. One was a triple crown, and the other was a quadruple crown. They were respectively water element devil masters and wood element devil masters. "What's going on? Are you an earth element devil master?" When the two devil masters arrived, the soldiers quickly made way for them. One of the devil masters looked at Hyoheim in confusion and asked. At the same time, he looked at him with extreme vigilance. Jidong had just used his magical power to release a simple vibration. He didn't release any attributes at all. He didn't answer the other party's question. With a flip of his palm, the things in his palm shone. It wasn't one, but two. One of them was the 8-star badge of the Devil Guild that Hilo had given him. The other was naturally the badge that represented the honor of an elder. As a Devil Master, how could he not know about these two things? Especially when the two Devil Masters both had the 3-star badge of the Devil Guild on their chests. Seeing the two things in Jidong's palm, the two of them revealed a look of surprise. When they looked at Jidong's young face, they couldn't believe it. "Can we check it?" The quadruple crown Devil Master asked tentatively. Jidong shook his wrist, and the badge flew steadily towards the two Devil Masters. The two Devil Masters received them respectfully and carefully poured their magical power into them. The badge of the Devil Guild were specially made. They were the highest level secrets of the Devil Guild. It was impossible to imitate them, especially the Elder Badge of Jidong. It was made according to the President's Badge. It had the highest honor in the Devil Guild. Very quickly, the two Devil Masters had finished their inspection. The 4-crowned Devil Master walked up respectfully with the badge and token in his hands, saying, "Devil Master Guild Sky Water City Branch Deacon Ji Bin greets the Elder. I have offended you before. Please forgive me." The other Devil Master hurriedly waved his hand at the surrounding soldiers, telling them to disperse and continue to check the others. In the eyes of the soldiers, these Devil Masters were absolutely high and mighty existences. They had endless methods and were usually very arrogant. They didn't expect that they would have such a humble side. They couldn't help but look at Jidong's group a few more times, guessing their identity in their hearts. Jidong took back the badge and said, "What happened in Tinshui City? As the capital, do we still need to go through an inspection to enter the city?" The quadruple crown Devil Master Ji Bin said, "Elder, is your surname Ji?" Jidong nodded and asked doubtfully, "How do you know?" Jibin said, "That's right. Not long ago, the headquarters just issued an order to all the branches in the country, announcing your status as law enforcement elder and honorary vice president. In any branch, you have full authority to handle any affairs." Jidong couldn't help but laugh. He thought in his heart, this Vice President Shiluo is really interesting. He actually gave me the title of Law Enforcement Elder. It seems that he also knows that I can't interfere in the guild's affairs, so he used this to win me over. However, no matter what, the Devil Guild is still quite good to me. Not to mention other things, just the acquisition of the Fierce and Flame dual swords is very important to me. Jibin, you haven't answered my question yet. What's going on in Tianshui City? Jibin hurriedly said, 3 days ago, something happened in Tianshui City. In one night, the Bartenders Guild headquarters located in the city was ransacked. What did you say? Jidong was taken aback. He never thought that the incident turned out to be the destination of his trip. He said, the Bartenders Guild was ransacked? This is Tianshui City, the capital of the North Water Empire. Not to mention that the high-level bartenders in the Bartenders Guild are all devil masters. Is the defense of the capital of the North Water Empire that bad? Jibin smiled bitterly. Maybe it's because it's been peaceful for too long. This time, the people who attacked the Bartenders Guild headquarters seem to be all devil masters, and there are many of them. In addition, in the Bartenders Guild headquarters, more than 10 strong devil masters, including President Du Sikong, are not there, so it was quietly ransacked. Not only was the wine cellar robbed, but also a large number of women and children were captured. It is said that the thief also left a letter for Du Sikong. As for what the content is, I don't know. Jidong was puzzled. Why are there women and children? Jibin said, the Bartenders Guild is different from our Devil Master Guild. Our Devil Masters come here to communicate with each other, buy or sell some magical items, or take the rating test. But in the Bartenders Guild, besides the rating test, more bartenders gather in the headquarters to communicate with each other and study various bartending methods. Therefore, they often stay for a long time. These top bartenders can get very good treatment wherever they go, and they don't need to worry about their livelihood. Therefore, most of the time, there will be some relatives of bartenders staying in the Bartenders Guild headquarters. This time, the Bartenders Guild suffered a big loss. It wasn't as simple as being ransacked, but many bartenders died. The women and children were directly taken away. The thieves were extremely ruthless. It's really shameful to say that such a big thing only found out the next morning. The thieves robbed more than 100 women and children and left quietly. Recently, they have been investigating this matter. I heard that the guard at the east gate has already fled. The thieves must have entered and left the city from there.